This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone, welcome to our day 29 in our GCP Cloud Architect training, where last week we stopped at this slide where we were looking into the various predefined roles in GCP. So far we had explored how BigQuery data owner works along with in conjunction with BigQuery job user. That is what we had seen last week. Today we will explore more about BigQuery user, BigQuery data viewer, BigQuery metadata viewer. Editor, once you know the trick, you should be able to do it yourself. It's going to be exactly like owner, but a person who cannot delete the data set. So basically something of that sort. If you're a BigQuery admin, you get the full access along with executing the query, all of those things. And we had last week explored one of the important cheat sheet was basically this one. This is a very important one, which is used to query your data, load your data. So you need to have this jobs.create, BigQuery.jobs.create permission, without which you cannot do. And it is available only in these three predefined roles. And prefer to use job user as much as possible because it has only three permissions. So that the principle of least privilege applies there. So that's where we had stopped. Today, we will explore data viewer role first, data viewer role, and slowly we'll go to BigQuery user role and also metadata viewer role. And there are a few newly added roles. We'll quickly go through them. What is that? Because from today onwards, a new pattern of the exam is going to come. So May 1st today. So happy Labor's Day, first of all. So we'll see those quickly, those new new IAM roles. Okay, so first we'll finish data viewer role. So as usual, if you want to quickly know what is the data viewer role all about, you can look into it. So it has, just zoom enough. Yeah, this should be good enough. So a data viewer can have these permissions, can look into the data set. So once the person is able to know the data set details, they can get the table details. This is an important permission, folks. BigQuery.tables.get data. This is the one which is going to help to do the preview. So if you don't have this permission, you'll not be able to preview it. This will be very clear when we do the demonstration with metadata viewer role. So this is very, very important. And if I go to my metadata viewer, you get almost very similar like data viewer, but tables.get data is not going to be there. The reason for emphasizing so fine grain on this kind of permission was there are a few questions on this. I also got it in the recent recertification which I did. So it's very important. So it's better we add this in our role. Before doing that, now I see around good amount of people joined. Before we do any activity, I wanted to go to BigQuery and show you the tables which we had created. So I had mentioned, right, when we come back on today, Saturday, all the tables would have been deleted or expired, to be very specific, except one table, which was something called as expire soon, something like that. So everything should have been expired. That was our understanding. So let's get that understanding cleared. Then we'll go back to our IAM roles. So otherwise I'll forget it to show. So let me show you that. Go to BigQuery. And I also did not go to this page after we did it on last Saturday. So BigQuery. So in 1 week, some changes to the user interfaces. It was showing like hide preview options. Now it is showing as disable editor tab. So still not so comfortable with this new user interface. I'm just going to disable this so that I'll come back to the standard or the generally available user interface. So back to the generally available user interface. Now, if I expand this, you should see something new. What is that? Only one table should exist. So even I have not seen it, but based on the understanding, the concept which we have gained, that should be the one. Otherwise, we have to check whether our understanding was correct or not. So let me expand it. We have a data set and we have only one table. Remember, we had created good amount of tables: employee table, table for ORC, table for Avro, table. Just give me a minute. Table for Avro, table for Parquet, lots of such formats we had created it. And everything is disabled or expired. The reason is we had put at a data set level uh, a constraint that it has to be expired 4 days. Any tables which you create after 4 days, it should expire. So between last Sunday to today, there's more than 4 days. So everything got expired. Now, do you want to know whether it was really deleted by me or it was deleted by system? You can definitely verify it. So I have not deleted it. So if you want to still see it, you can look into something called as logs. I'll show you how to see it in the logs in a minute. But before we go into that, so the expire soon, many of you had questions on this, how it will look like. So if I click on expire soon partition, looking at the details, it shows the expiry is going to be per party, per day. Per day, it's going to get expired. Now you see table is 0, number of rows are 0, but you have the schema. You have the schema. When I click on preview, it's going to show the table is empty. You need to insert the data. I did not insert it. We inserted the data only on last Sunday, and we made sure the table will not expire quickly. It is going to expire, sorry, where it's going to go, what time, table expiry, never. We made it as never to expire. That's the reason it did not got expired. So hope this part is clear, folks. So schema is going to stay. If you are going to do partition level expiry, the schema is going to stay. Worst thing is could be something like the table is all washed off, only the schema is going to be there. So if there's no additional data. So hope this part was is clear. So many of you had this question, how it will look like. So tables which was not at a partition level expiry, the table itself got expired because of the constraint which we put at our data set level. So now let me go to something called as logs, which we have not explored. We will explore it in our I guess, eighth module, if I'm not wrong. So we are in our sixth module. So in our eighth module, we'll explore something called as stack driver logging, now called as cloud operations or cloud logging. So if you just go there, you should be able to see what happened to those tables. Employee table, lots of tables we created. What happened to them? We can see it by just going to, and just to verify that I did not delete it, it was deleted by the system based on the constraint which we put. So you can go to logging, more on this in our module A, sorry, module 8. So if I go to log explorer, yes. So it is going to show the latest one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a filter on BigQuery. There are lots of data sets which we created. You can put a filter on which data set you want. Most of our data set was in batch 6 DS. So if I put that and click on add, you get a filter here. Run the query, and you'll get very few things because it only shows by last 1 hour. So what we did was for last 1 week. So I'll click on edit time and I'll make it as 10 days to be on the safer side so that I get it every log information about this data set, what happened inside this data set. So when I click on run query again, now you get some good information. Yeah. So if I just use my calendar, so we created some tables on 25th, some tables on 26th. So if it is 25th, it should have been expired by 29th. 28. If it's on 26, 29th, it should have been happened. So 28th and 29th is what things should have happened. And that's what it indicates here also. So 25th, the last thing which we did was on Sunday, we did some insert. Afterwards, we did not do anything. Afterwards, we did not do anything. Sunday, I also closed it at 10 o'clock IST time. I closed it. I didn't even come back to this project. So on 28th, what has happened? You see table, internal table expired. So if you look into this logs, usually expanding is always going to be helpful, expand the stuff. So now you can see what has happened, and it is also going to show, is there any ID which was used to delete? Can I find that? Authentication information. So audit internal table expired. What was the table? Employees. Remember that this was the first table which we created on Saturday, last Saturday. So this was the one which got expired first. So table deletion expired. I thought it's going to show some user information, at least some service account kind of a stuff. It does not show any information. Who deleted it? It's not going to show it. It's not going to show it. But if we deleted it ourselves, say for example, if I delete a table or something of that sort, it's going to show who deleted it. Um, Maybe job insert table. If I just open this, hope it shows. Yeah, it shows the principal. It was me. So if it is by the system, it's not showing that. It's going to show it as basically internal table expired. So similarly, the JSON file type which we loaded uh, is also the next file which got deleted, which we created it on 29th of April. So all other tables, you see lots of expired. The user parquet file. So it also shows it is expired. It shows that it is expired. So hope the concept is clear, folks, about the expiry. And it is very clear that I didn't delete it. It is deleted by the system. And that's the reason I guess it shows as internal. The last table which got deleted or expired, to be very specific, was the table which we created where Kumar had a question about expiring it, having a partition expire by year or something. He has last question. That was the last question I heard from you. So I had created quickly a table which was for 7 years or something. But the partition was for 7 years, but it was a normal, it was a table which I created inside this batch 6 DS, because batch 6 has an expiry policy of 4 days. This table got expired. That is the reason. So is this part clear, folks? So the expiry stuff. So yes, no would be helpful. Hope this is part is clear. So how expiry works. And if you ask me a question like, can I know those partitions which got expired? I cannot get that because that is at a row level. That is at a row level. So if you go back to your um, that expire soon thing, you will not see any information about expire soon here. So the reason is that is at a row level you are trying to do, so you cannot get that. So anything at a table level maximum is what you can get logged, is what I see basically. Okay, thank you, folks. So with that background, so uh, I wanted to make sure I don't forget to. I remember this to show you. Sometimes I forget to show that, so that I kept it and made sure I showed you that. So that's good. Now what we'll do is we will jump back to our data viewer role. So what we'll do is we have only one table. Uh, One table. Maybe quickly we can add one or two table information. Then see how things work. Um, Maybe I'll just quickly create a dummy table, folks, quickly, because everything is expired. So employee employees, and I'll just add a name, employee ID. That's it. Click on create, and I'm doing this as the owner. As the owner, the table should be an empty table should be created. It's a normal or a regular table. Let me also insert it. Let's insert a row. This is something which you should never do. You should always do a bulk load, but I have deleted those CSV file in my laptop. I don't have a copy. I have to download it from the Google Drive. Instead of that, quickly I'll just do this. Insert into values, user one, user one, 100. Insert into table. What's the mistake? Okay, I have to mention the column names. Oh, it is a string. Okay, I see that. I don't need then this. Okay, let me just insert this. You see, this normal insert takes 1.7 seconds, folks. But if you do this in a transactional system like um, Cloud SQL or Spanner, it's going to be much, much faster. This is not a transactional system, basically. So that should be very, very clear here. So now if I look into the table, review it, I see this data. I see this data. I can also query this table. Select name. If I do it, it shows me only the names. So far, so good. So far, so good. So now what we are going to do is we are going to give a role called as data viewer role to a person. So the person should be able to query this, look at the preview, but cannot query the table. To query the table, you need BigQuery.jobs.create permission. So which is very clear, it is not available. So let's verify this by doing a small demonstration. So I'll go to my IAM. So very clear, there is no additional users apart from this user. So I'm just going to add a user, the standard user, which we use. BigQuery data viewer, access to view the data and all of its content. So that's it. Click on save. Added. Now let me swap my screen to my Edge browser. Do a refresh. Let me see under no organization. Do I get C batch 6? Yes, I see batch 6. Only access which I have is only BigQuery. That's the reason all other resources are showing permission denied. But for BigQuery, I should be able to see the table details. So table details. So this is some other project. I can just unpin it so that you don't get confused. So now this is our batch 6 and we have the data set. You see those two tables. Now if I click on employee, I see the metadata information. These are metadata information, schema and the details. Now, if I can click on preview, it shows me the preview. Beautiful. It shows me the preview. Can I query it? Let's just check it out. So if I put this, it throws me an error. And by this time, we should be knowing what is the possible error it's going to show. It's going to show BigQuery.jobs.create permission is missing is what it should show. If I just click on this error message, you see that does not have this permission. So preview is going to be different. Running a query or loading a data is going to be different. So these are all going to be called as jobs. These are all going to be called as jobs. So you have to make sure you see these job information. All are going to be called as jobs. So for that, you have to have BigQuery.jobs.create permission. Otherwise, you cannot do it. So similarly, you can look into the other table. It shows the details, preview, everything, but you cannot query it. So even though it is an empty table, if you try to query it, it's going to show the same message. So if I put star just for a minute, it still shows the same message. It still shows the same message. So hope this part is clear. Data viewer can only look into the metadata information. So uh, nothing else. Maybe you can give, this is going to be more like a read access, maybe to a manager. You can give this information so that the manager can know what kind of data has been there without querying it. Even if the person tries to query it, it's not going to allow him to query it. So hope that part is clear, folks. Now, we saw data viewer. Editor, we have skipped it. You can explore it by yourself. It's going to be exactly the same like owner, but the delete data set cannot be done because he cannot delete the data set. Now, the most interesting one, my favorite one, is BigQuery user role. Now, assume there is a junior guy who joins your organization and as something like a data engineer or a person who works on BigQuery, uh, who would have worked on some other data warehouse in the past, but the exposure on BigQuery could be little. So you wanted to give him some time to learn, him or her to learn. Uh, but at the same time, because he's in a learning mode or she's in a learning mode, there could be a chance that they may delete some data. This happens usually. Everybody does that. Even yesterday, I was doing something. I deleted something in my cloud shell. There was some important data. By mistake, I deleted it. I have to recreate it again now. So things happens like that. So to be on the safer side, what you do is you can give this person the freedom of learning. Don't put any constraint, but at the same time, don't give access to your production data. Uh, so they cannot even look into it. That's what we wanted to see. So that is meaning you give a laptop to him, but don't make him to install or her to install any software. Installing software usually requires admin access, but you create a profile, C/user/ the employee name. Whatever they want, they can do inside that folder, but they cannot go and do any changes in C drive because that requires a system. Uh, uh, it requires a better access more than a normal user access. It's the same thing which you can do with a BigQuery user role. So let me show you that. So I usually give this to learners so that they can do everything, creation, deletion, everything. They can create a data set, they can delete their own data set, but they cannot see some other data set which was created unless you get access to it. So that's what I wanted to show you. So for that, before we go into this, we'll explore this role. When applied to a project, access to run queries, create data set, read data set, metadata list when applied to a data set. So these are stuffs. So now if you look into this details, I can create data set. Beautiful. But if you see, it does not show something like create table. So what I understood was, this is my understanding, I may be wrong. If you can create a data set, the table resides inside a data set. So basically you get access to creating a tables. Like if you have the main door key of your house, definitely you can enter few of the rooms, basically. That's the concept is what I feel, but there's no specifically mentioning BigQuery dot tables dot create. You may ask, such a permission exists? Yes, such a permission exists. If you see it in data owner, so table dataset dot create. Similarly, you should see tables dot create. You get that option. You get that option. But in BigQuery user role, this permission is not there. Even though if this permission is not there, I can create it. The whole understanding, it could be possibly a bug, or the way to understand it is if you can create a data set, you can create a table also. Then you may ask why this is given here. I don't have an answer for that. Need to explore more, basically. So what I will do now is, so I will change this role to BigQuery. Mm, how come that role is not there? Okay, BigQuery user role. So done, done. Now what I will do is I'll make sure I log off and log in or refresh it. Let me just refresh it one more time. Just wanted to show you that I have logged in as Mahesh. Now let me go to BigQuery dataset. Now if I click on this data set. If I click on employee, it is showing. It should not show actually. Then let me just log off once. And log out. So let me go back to the table. Now, if I click on employee, this is what I should get. Why? Because you are only a BigQuery user. So you will not have access to the table. So BigQuery.tables.get on this is not there. On this table, it is not there, is what it indicates. You can see the data set details. So that part you can get the details about the data set. Maybe this is a production data set. You will get access to it. You see the settings, basically, not much confidential except this creation or deletion policy. So any other tables, I will not have access to because I don't have this permission. So if I just get copy this on that specific table, it is saying you don't have it. So where's the permission? This is the one. So if I just search it, it's not there. It's not there. Uh, Basically, that's what it indicates. Now, then you may ask, then what is the use of this role? The use of this role is under this project, you can create your own data set for your self-learning purpose. So I see a data set which I can create. Let me create one as a BigQuery user. I can create wherever I want. So I'm just going to leave it as default. If I just leave it as default, it's going to be a multi-regional data set, which is going to be in US. So or you want in a specific region, you can do that. So if I put it in Singapore, I will also put this is going to expire in 2 days. Any tables inside this is going to expire in 2 days. So click on create. Good. I can see the data set got created. Can I load any data? Yes, you can load it. You can insert, you can do everything inside that. But this is your space. Within the space, you do whatever you want. Nobody's going to question you. So create a table. Can I create a table? Employ something like I'll call it as BigQuery user employee. So add a couple of fields. name, employee ID, integer. Can I create a table? Good. I can create a table. Was it, is that it indicates? I can also insert it, or I can also load the data. So I guess somebody. Okay, I can also load the data easily. So let me try to load it. I'm just going to use a crude way. Please don't do this way. I should have downloaded that CSV file. So I forgot to download it. So user BigQuery. I'll just use it as BigQuery user. I get the data inserted. Maybe run one more row. The same thing. So if insert works, definitely you can also load the data. You can query it also. So let me just query it. Now I can see this is the table which I created. I can see the details. I can see my preview, everything. I can also query the table. So I can query it. I can query it. So, but this is within my space only. So you can see all, you can use all your, you can learn all your concepts, BigQuery concepts within this role. So hope this part is clear, folks. But I cannot see the production data. So assume this batch 6 underscore DS is the production. You don't want to give anybody access to that. Uh, just give them BigQuery user role. They can learn, they can create something, they can create their own, delete their data set also. They can delete their data set. So they get it is, but this data set they don't have access to. You may say there's a button here. Can I go ahead and delete it? Go try it. It's going to throw you an error. So let me try to delete this. You see this error. Access denied, permission. So you don't have access to the data set which already exists, which is created. You can create your own data set. So hope this part is clear, folks. And you will not even get access to the tables which is there in the existing data set, because it's like more like an isolated one. You try everything yourself, you delete your data set, but don't even access any other data. So hope this part is clear. So this is an important one. So maybe basically for newcomers, you can give this access. So that's on the BigQuery user role. Hope that is clear, folks. The last one which I wanted to show is metadata viewer role. Afterwards, we will look into the other new roles which has been added. So going back, now what I'll do is I'll downgrade this. I'll downgrade this BigQuery user role to the last role which we have, basically called as metadata viewer. This is only to see the metadata. Now, by doing this, what you will understand is what is the actual meaning of metadata. So data set details you can get, table details you can get, what is the IAM policy, who have access, who don't have access, listing all the tables, you will get all those details. But you cannot do a preview, you cannot do a query, you cannot do a load. So it's a slimmed down version of your data viewer. Maybe who should get access? I would say you can give metadata access maybe to a security reviewer. Why should a security reviewer should know the data content inside? Just he can just look into whether you have created policies, expiry policy or something. That is enough, right? Maybe if the security reviewer is in US, sorry, not US, in European Union, where some GDPR related stuffs are there, the compliance related stuffs, he may see, okay, table level expiry you have created, that is good. Data set level you have done expiry, that is enough. But why he should know the details of the table? So for such people, this role is going to be a good choice. So let's give this role to the same user. So did I change it? No. Let me just change this. BigQuery metadata viewer rule. Done. It's going to take a couple of minutes for it to reflect. So the best way is I log off and log in. Let me go to BigQuery table, data set, and the tables. Now I see the data set information. Good. Can I see the employee information? Yep, I can see the employee information. Details, I'll come to know how many rows are there. Is there any expiry policy? Is it partition table? Every details. For example, expire partition soon. This is a partition table. I get that information. I also come to know the partition. Now, as a security reviewer, I'll say, yes, you have done a great job here because this is for some European Union where they expect this kind of stuff. I can definitely say thumbs up, all good. So I can see the schema. But what I cannot do is if I click on preview, it's going to throw me an error where it very clearly says you don't have BigQuery.tables.get data permission. Same applies to your employee tables also. So if I click on employee table, it shows me that preview is to work. For preview to work, you have to have BigQuery.get data permission. So hope this part is clear, folks. I'll just add this in the cheat sheet because something on this can come as a question. To I'll just copy this. To preview any table in BigQuery, you need basically this permission. This permission, and in window where and all it is available. Without looking into the documentation, I would say it is available in BigQuery. I will also show you. BigQuery data owners should have it. Owner, then data editor should definitely have it. That is my understanding. BigQuery, I'll also show you this. BigQuery data viewer. These are the people who should have it. Prefer to use this one because it is principal of least privilege. Preferred. I'll just show you quickly this. If I go to my IAM roles, I put a filter on permission and look for this permission, and there are lots of stuff. I'll just put in use, basically BigQuery. In the BigQuery stuff, that's very clear. Admin can get it, edit owner, editor, and viewer. So to preview, basically, at least to explore the data, preview is at least to some extent good enough. So I should have data viewer rule. Data viewer rule. That's the key part here. Now, one last demo I wanted to show, then we will move on. We had used basically BigQuery job user in conjunction with BigQuery data owner, but we had never tried giving an individual person only this role. If I just give this role, what can happen? Any thoughts, folks? I don't give any other permission. What is going to happen? Any thoughts? Any thoughts? If I just give this, meaning if I just come here, change this user, and give the most least privilege job user. Save it. Save it. What's going to happen? What's going to happen, folks? Any thoughts? I wanted you to think what can happen in this scenario. We can just log in and we can just check everything. But before doing that, what would be your thoughts? To just view the load jobs. Okay. Uh, View the jobs. There's no option for me to see the job. So if I just see at BigQuery editor admin, is there any? So to view the job, I have to have this permission. I have to have this permission, jobs.get. But what I have is a very basic one, jobs.create, and details about the project, all those things. We'll be able to run the query. Okay. Uh, that's what it indicates. But we'll do a demonstration and I'll show you what is going to happen. So what comes to as a conclusion towards the end, right? This is not going to be a standalone role. Yes, you can run the query, but you should first have read access to the table. So that's what it's going to show. So let me just give that user only this role and you'll see what is going to happen. So if I in my IAM role, yeah, I have given this already. Let me just refresh it. The role is changed, downgraded to just job user. Let's see what is going to happen. This is the most important part of the demo. This is most important part of the demo. Let me log out. So I refreshed it. Now, if you see it, folks, I don't have even access to BigQuery is what it shows. So it does not even have that much. So let me just see what is that I can get to know. If I go, I have logged in as Mahesh. So if I just go to my BigQuery, you'll be surprised to see what happens. So it does not even show that you have a data set, folks. It does not even show that you have a data set. Now, if I click on, because I had queried it, I may see my queries. I may see my queries which I ran. But if I click on project history, I guess I will be seeing this because I ran this. It's going to show only what I saw, only what queries I have executed. But if I log in as the owner and look into the query job project history, it is going to show me everybody's details. So, but as Mahesh with only BigQuery uh, job history, can I see it? Job history, okay. Then what Sridevi mentioned looks good. I can see it here. Uh, I can see those details about the history. Job create. Okay, if you can create, maybe it is an understanding that you can see the job details. Maybe that is the thing. So I'm able to see that what I have done, the query, but I don't even get access to my data set. The data set which I have, the tables which I don't even see that. If you think, okay, anyway, you ran this query in the past, why don't you go and try that? If you want to try that also, uh, so if I just do select start for a minute. So it shows basically data set not found because you don't have access to the data set. So the key important thing is it's not going to be something which is just with job user role. Just give something job user role, nothing is going to work. I would say this role becomes useless unless you don't give access to that data set first of all. So maybe basically you can, if you want to use the most very least privilege, you can give somebody data viewer role along with BigQuery job user role. Both of this going to be the most least privilege which you can keep, or maybe something like yeah, uh, data viewer role, and this one is going to help you out to query it. Let's give that try doing this and see whether it's going to work. Before I do that part, right, that should definitely work. But what you have given, then you may ask, then why somebody gives this kind of an access? So assuming there is some data where you can access it, definitely you should be able to query it. For example, let me take this stuff. To batch 6 DS, no access. Very clear. You have no access. But what you can query is basically you can query the public data set. What Google has done is we have a public data set, right, in GCP, where you have lots of stuff. For example, I can take one of the query from our cheat sheet, this one. There's a public data set called as BigQuery public data set, or there are few good public data sets available. I can just copy this one. So for the public data set, anybody who has logged in to Gmail, they will get access to it. So public data set, this is not given by us, this is given by Google, Google, where mostly you would be BigQuery data viewer. This is what they would have given. That is the reason because of which you would be, if I paste this query, okay, the location, I'll just change this to automatic. Now the query becomes valid. Now I have logged in as Mahesh. I have logged in as Mahesh. I don't have access to this data set, but I have access to one data set, public data set, which everybody has been given by Google to everybody. They have given any authenticated user, they would have given access. Now I'm able to do this. Now it shows it is valid command. Now if I run this, it is going to process around some 380 MB of data, and it gives me the result also. Now what has happened, right? There's a concept like two things. Google have their public data set hosted somewhere, mostly in US. So if you want to know the details, you just click on this. You'll come to know this table details. This table, Wikipedia, 10 million rows roughly, is in US. They have given every authenticated user a data viewer, because of which I'm able to view it. I'm able to preview it also. And in this project, which is batch 6, I am given basically a job user role, meaning I can run any jobs if I have access to the data. So access to the data is given by the public data set. Now in this project, I can query it, meaning I can query it. So what happens is when I go to my query history, refresh it, this one, the one which we just queried now, it took around 380 MB of data to be queried. So the build bytes are 381 MB. So this is going to be built to my project, which is batch 6. So you will have a concept of two projects. One is a project which is hosting public data set in this case has the data. So data cost is going to be bared by them. What is the data size? If you want to know, basically, if I just go back, run this query one more time. So this wiki 10, the total size is going to be around 861. So 861 MB cost, storage cost is borne by GCP. Now you queried my spelling is correct. You queried around 380 MB from batch 6 project. So I'll be charged in batch 6 project. So this is going to be my billing project. It is billed to my project. The query cost. So storage is totally borne by somebody else. So hope this part is clear, folks. So you can have this kind of stuffs where billing is going to be given to some other project access. So where you query it, the billing is going to happen there. So to query in that project, you should have bare minimum BigQuery job user role. So to access the data could be somewhere else. If for that data, if you have given them the access, you should be able to query it in this project and bill it. So hope this part is clear. Very important. Now I can show you how this data viewer role works by making basically what I'll do is I'll go back to the owner screen. I will make this user give one more role. Data viewer. Done. Now, if I go back, hope I can refresh it at least once and see it. Okay, the role looks like it is reflecting. It's reflecting now. I can see the tables. I can preview it. I can also query it. Now, the ultimate role with the principle of least privilege, if you want to give it, basically, what you can do is BigQuery data viewer plus BigQuery job user role. If you give, you should be able to query it. All those things is going to be possible. Now, a small question for you people. If I do the insert, will it happen? Will I be able to insert the data, folks? So like how we used to insert the data, can we insert that? Insert into, will it work, folks? So I have not completed the syntax, so it's going to anyway throw an error. Because when I type the command, you'll come to know whether it's going to work or not. But if I do an insert using BigQuery data viewer role, BigQuery data viewer role, will the data get inserted? Inserting into a table, will it work? The question is more towards not towards a database concept, but is more towards the IAM concept. So per my understanding, there is nothing like I can do with a table creation or table modification stuff. So basically the insert should not work. So if I see any other better roles like editor role, table create, if I can table create, I can should be also modify the table. So BigQuery dot tables dot create is not there in data viewer. As a data viewer, I can only get the details. I can get the details, not insert the data. So basically, what is going to happen is if you do insert into values, what's the table information? Both are string. So data viewer, then this is 2200. Now when I do this, it shows you this message. You don't have a permission called as BigQuery.tables.table update data denied. Now you may ask, then how will I load the data? So this is using your SQL statements. Using the SQL statements, you are not able to do it because basically the table.update permission is not there. Now, since you have a job user role, you can load it, do a bulk load. So what you need to do basically is create a CSV file, copy this data viewer, comma, 200, save it to my local system, call this as users.csv. User.csv. Now what I can do is basically I can load the CSV file into this table. So if I just go click on this, create a table. We'll use that append mode, which we had learned. So employees, upload from my local system. So I'm going to use employees itself. I'm not creating a new table, but that's the only option which I have in the user interface. So create. So the schema is going to be basically name, employee ID, both are string. What I'm going to do is under my advanced option, I'm going to say append to the table. Append to the table. Now let me try to do this. Okay, this create. Okay, creating a table. It's not going to allow create. Then there should be an option for me to load it. Maybe I'll try to do it from my command line, folks. Command line should be a good choice. Maybe the UI is not going to work better. So I'll try to launch my command line. I'll just do BigQuery load command. BigQuery BQ load command. So if I just go back, this command is what I'm going to do. Should work because I have BigQuery job user role permission. Let me just launch this. I thought I can do it in the UI. So, but it has another option or another error saying that you cannot create it, which makes sense. Hope I'm not making it too complicated, but because you may get questions like this more on IAM roles itself. So which looks little confusing, but only once you do a demo like this, things will become clear. So if I just do BQ, sorry, BQLS, it should show me the details there. What I'll do is I'll upload the file from my local system to here. Done. So if I do BQLS batch 6 underscore DS, I'll know the employee details. So this one. So what I'm going to do is ls is my file there. Users.display. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is something like this. BQ load, because I'm already in that project, I don't need to mention the project ID. So I'm going to mention the data set name dot employees followed by your file name. That's it. Now let's see whether this is going to work. So oh, this is also going to expect a create option. Okay. loading, it always expects a create. Am I correct here? I was under the understanding it should get created. Query load tables, but this is not going to create a table. This is not going to create a table. Employees. Okay. So tables. Okay, it has the same thing. Okay. Then the only use is only if you can query it. You can query it. Uh, Loading. I wanted to see whether my understanding was you can load it, but it is asking to create, have a create tables dot create. If I then do it, um, okay, my bad. So maybe my understanding was wrong here. So um, so in it, if you were to load the data, you need to have at least tables dot create permission is what it indicates. So it becomes slightly confusing here. So BigQuery job user is for querying, loading your thing. And if you were to query it, yes, with just the data, with if you just have a BigQuery data viewer where you can get the table details and all, you should be able to query it. But if you were to insert a data, it is showing that you should also have BigQuery.tables.create permission also. Only then you can basically update the table. So loading maybe makes sense if I think for a while. So you are trying to load something, so you need to have this also, is what it indicates basically. So let me just stop here, folks. Think about it, and if you have any questions, let me know. Happy to answer it. So what we'll do is we'll take a 10 minutes break. I thought this is going to work. Sorry, my bad. I also saw it for the first time. So the tables dot you need to have this create permission. Only then you can load the data into an existing system or into an existing table or into a new table. So this is required. But if you just have BigQuery.tables.get permission, you can query it. You can query it because anyway, data viewer has BigQuery.tables.get. You are able to query it, but inserting is not working. So maybe if we want, when we come back, we can create a custom role or something where we add only this permission and we can give a try. We can give a try. But before that, let's take a 10 minutes break, come back, then we will check how we can fix this part. So take a 10 minutes break and come back. Let me stop the record.
This conference will now be recorded.
So before the break, when we were trying to load the data, we were getting this error, but we are able to query because BigQuery dot tables dot get permission is there. So maybe since I created this issue, so I'll just try to see whether we just create this um, permission as a part of a new custom role. Can we fix this? We'll just see this one, like we'll just spend 2 or 3 minutes. If things does not work, we'll move on. Okay. So I'll go to my roles, create a role where we are going to create a custom role. We did this in our beginning days. So create a custom role. I'll call this as custom BigQuery table create. So the only permission which let me put it in generally available. The only permission I need is basically add this permission BQ. That's the only thing which I need. A role with only one permission, nothing else, folks. So done. So create it. So I have my this role, custom role, only one permission, not much, only one permission. Now I'll give this role to my user who's not able to insert it. So if I do this one, change it, custom, save it. Now we have 3 rows basically. Now we should be able to go and run it. And what I have observed, maybe it may work totally opposite when I say this. At least in the command line, the stuffs works little faster. The propagation of the changes works or shows it very faster is what I have seen. So let me just give a try one more. So last time when we ran, it threw an error. Now at least we have this permission. Let's give whether it is going to work or not. So okay, it gives one more message. So I have to have an update. So I have to have this also. So let me give this also. But at least looks like our changes are working. So I have to have both. So I have both. Role needs to be given. So now anyway, since it's a custom role, what I can do is I don't need to change anything here. Keep adding permissions to this. This is another way you can learn the concepts, folks. So go to your table. Let me edit this row, add a new permission, which it throwed. That message, you need to have this table update also is what it says. Select this, add it. Now it has 2 permissions basically. Let's see whether it's going to propagate. By the time it propagates, just out of curiosity, just wanted to see permission, whether this permission exists in any of the roles. Okay, editor, data. Okay, out of curiosity. All right, let me give a try here. We are progressing better. Hoping it should get inserted now. No, it's not reflecting if my understanding is correct. Let me give one more try. We have given it. The same error message, but I have given that one last time. Otherwise, I'll refresh it and see it. Let's log off. Okay. Just refresh it one more time and then give a try. So the command which did not work last time. Okay, now also it is showing the same thing. I have it. I'm not sure what is the thing which is going wrong here. I had given this permission. I had given that. Okay. If I just remove this, it should also show custom role. Did I give it 1 minute, folks? Let me. Oh, I did not click on update. My bad. Sorry. I did not click on update. My bad, folks. Really sorry. Okay, now let me just see it. Okay, it is there. So, which means I should be able to, if I refresh the screen, it's going to work, or in the command line, it should directly reflect uh, basic errors. Now, this one should work, is my understanding. Is what I would say. Yes, it is working. So BQ query, single quotes, select name from employees works. Data viewer works. So basically, I have to have 2 more permissions: BigQuery.tables.create and BigQuery.table.update. What was that rule? Update data. So if I have these 2 permissions, then I should be able to do the steps. So hope the things are clear, folks, here. Sorry for the confusion, but it was an exploration I had. If I had done it well in advance, I could have made it better, but I thought it's going to do it. But today, I learned something new actually with respect to this one. So hope this is clear. If it's not clear, let me know. I created little confusion, but let me know if it's clear or not clear. Uh, so the summary is basically you have given basically this user maybe I can remove data viewer role totally. If I remove data viewer role, let's make it very clear here. So data viewer role, remove it. I removed it. I can only create update tables, run jobs, meaning to query it, you should have access to the table. So it may not work now. Um, very strange. Uh, or I should I reflect. So what I have now is table create. Creating a table means I will have access to the. Okay, very strange. Okay, because I have create role. Maybe let me just do one last thing, folks. This is becoming more complicated than I thought. So I'll just remove the permission there and the custom role which I created. So some permissions over supersedes the other one is what I feel. So if I can create it, I can definitely get the table details also. It's the it's in that way is what I feel. Uh, okay, I will not change this role. What I will do is remove this user back to only job user, then he will not be able to query it. So now at least it should not work. It shows you don't have access to the table. Now, if I give that specific custom role which we have created, it should work because BigQuery tables.create. If you can create, you can get the details of the tables also, right? It falls into that category. So if I click on add the custom role, yes, now I should be able to create it. Mm, did I give it? Yes. Does not have permission to query the table. Or should I wait? Basically, the propagation is taking little longer time. Can I load? Okay, loading is working. I guess I'm creating lots of confusion. So loading is working, uh, but querying the table is not working. So I need to add one more permission to this tables dot get maybe. So one last thing and then I'll stop it. I'm creating lots of confusion. BigQuery dot tables dot get or get data. Let me give it. Let's give that one. See, get may still not be enough is what I feel. If I just give just get, I'll just give get date. Let me just give updated. Now if I clear the screen, does not work. The get data is important is what I feel. That permission should give that completeness. So if I just add one more permission, I guess it should clear all our confusion. Hope the policies don't come into picture. IAM policies, but IAM policies. So this should be good enough is what I feel. Let's give a try. Yes. So basically, the four permissions which we created for our custom role was create a table and update data. If you want to do basically create a new table or update a new table. If you want to query it, get and get data. So table details and get the table data details. So these four permissions are going to help you along with BigQuery dot jobs dot create. Maybe if you want to try one last thing, what I can do is create a totally a custom role like this with one more permission added, which is BigQuery dot jobs create. One last. This is the one which is going to do all this magic. So added it. So with these, I should be able to definitely do query, load, all those things very easily. Let me just. So done. Now what I will do, one last modification, remove the job user role. Totally customized role. We started with the predefined one by looking into the various options. We created one custom role, but one of the drawbacks of custom role is you have to manage it yourself. But if those permissions are what you need, not anything more, then you are okay. So I have only a custom role. Now, if I query it, it works. If I load a new data, it works. If I want to create it into a new table, so I'll create a new table called as employees custom role. I'll also mention auto detect schema. Auto schema. I have to see the syntax. Schema. Auto detect or something. There's a small syntax for that. I don't remember it. So BQ auto detect schema. There's a small configuration. Yeah, auto detect. So I'm creating a new table like this, and let's see whether it should appear after the final argument. After the final argument. Uh, awesome. I'm able to create a table also, is my understanding. So BQLS batch 6 underscore DS. Okay, I cannot list the data set because I don't have that tables.list. That's okay. But can I query it? Yes, I can query it by putting underscore custom role. One row is what I should see. What's the name? What's the name? 1 minute. Let me get that. I cannot list it. Let me see whether I can see it here. Query it. More than BigQuery class, it became like an IAM plus custom row, employees underscore custom row. That's what I have put. Oh, there is okay. I should not put a name. I have to get the schema. Uh, so so the field name, because we had done auto detect, right? It did not give a nice name. It gave a name, something like string underscore field underscore one, something like that, underscore zero. So hope this part is clear, folks. Little confusion was created by me. Apologies for that, sincere apologies. But at the end, we came up with a custom role which can do basically query and load, limited. So query and load. This could be something which we can give it to a service account if you were to do it in a more in an automated fashion. So with just a custom role, we were able to handle everything, query, load, all the options. We were able to do it. So then the role was basically just to recollect. Only 5 permissions. Create table, get the details of the table, update the table data, and run any jobs. Let me just stop here for any questions, folks. Any questions on this so far? No? So was that clear? Okay. So if it's clear, one last thing, we'll just quickly go through the remaining rows only from the BigQuery perspective, because I've seen in BigQuery, they ask questions related to BigQuery roles, the predefined roles, compared to anything else more. So admin created over connection admin. What is this? Just quickly exploring what it can do basically. Connection admin. So it is basically to create connections. So when you are connecting it from, say, for example, at systems like BI tools, Tableau or anything kind of a stuff. So this is going to help you to do that connection part, basically. Similarly, connection user, basically you will not be able to create a new connection, but use an existing connection. So get the connection details. You don't create it, but just use the connection. That's it. Then read session user. So this is a new role, not explored. What is this? Read BigQuery, read sessions dot create sessions. How many sessions are open? Maybe that's what it is trying to do that. Not explored much on this. Then resource manager. Okay, this one could be a resource admin. This could be an important one with respect to slots. Yeah, this is an important role. This is like resource admin plus data owner could be equivalent to your BigQuery admin. So what does this basically is? In BigQuery, there's a concept called as slots. So whenever any queries you run, right? So if you run any query, if I just quickly run it, I'll just put name, employee ID, run it. I get the details. Now, if I click on my execution details, it says slot time. Slot time. So if I just mouse over on it, it shows a slot is a unit of computational unit required to execute the SQL query. So for a fraction of a second or for a few minutes, there's going to be a kind of virtual machine allocated to you to run your query. That is basically a slot. So if you just click on this more details, it's going to show it's nothing but a computational unit. So a virtual machine BigQuery slot is a virtual CPU used by BigQuery to query to execute SQL query. BigQuery automatically allocates how many slots are required by each depending on your query size and complexity. This is all going to be automated, so you don't need to much worry about it. But what is going to happen when you are running a very complex query and you are running somebody else is already running a query per project? If you see per project, you will get a slot of 2000 virtual CPU at any given point. So you can also look into your quotas where you get that details. So if I just go to my quota, look for BigQuery related roles and the slot per project, it's going to be 2000 slots. So yeah, BigQuery slot. Uh, Matrix. BigQuery. We will have an option to see the slots. Okay, I'm not able to get it. So, but if you see it here, in the documentation which they were saying. So customers on flat rate, okay, for example, okay, projects on the per quota. So 2000 slot is what it is usually you're going to get default quota. I'm not able to get that right. BigQuery slots per project. 2000, yeah, 2000. Is that the same documentation? Yes. So 2000 is the slots, virtual CPU, which you get. Note, on-demand pricing gives you access to 2000 slots per Google Cloud project. So now what happens basically is, if before you run a query, somebody else is running, 2 or 3 queries are running, and it has consumed, and everybody are using the same project. If everybody is using the same project, the quota gets fully utilized. So 2000 slots all are utilized means what happens is, let's assume a case like this. CEO has his own dashboard, CEO, then VP, then employees. So they have their dashboards. Now, what happens is, assume morning employees come first always. So employees come, they run queries, which is running a query on the BigQuery. So it takes, assume, 1000 slots because it's a slightly complex query. It takes, then the VP comes, assume it's a Monday. So they wanted to see some sales report or anything of that sort. So uh, this VP takes 100 slots, 1000 slots. So 2000 slots are already consumed. Now the CEO comes at, say, for example, in the apps, something like, after these people are running, the CEO runs it on his phone or on his tablet, whatever it is. When he runs this query, he or she runs the query goes into a queued mode. It is queued. It's going to start in a waiting state unless these two queries finish and release the slot back to your project. It's going to be in a queue mode. But if you look into the hierarchy wise, CEO cannot wait. So there should be some kind of a priority. So if you want to have a kind of a priority, what you will do is, and this kind of a stuff, you do it called as on demand. And all the demos which we did so far was basically on demand mode. So whenever you want, you go and run it. So this is what it says, on demand pricing. So if you don't want this and you want to increase a much more quota or slots, basically there is a pricing model specifically for BigQuery, which you are going to use, called as BigQuery flat rate. What you get in flat rate is, you purchase a slot. You purchase slots in 500, minimum 500 or 250 also was possible, if I'm not wrong. So slot, you buy the slots. So what it happens is, you're going to reserve the slot for specific users. Whenever a query comes from CEO, this has to use the slot. If the CEO is not running a query, the slot can be used by anybody. It's more like a reservation, more like a reservation. If nobody is sitting in that reserved seat, somebody can go and sit. If the person comes, the authorized person who has purchased the ticket, something like that, he is going to get a seat. So it's more of a reservation which you do, so that important queries don't go into queued mode. So that's where slots comes into picture. So if I add to estimate, uh, per slot, so what's the minimum slot is, I'm not sure whether it's going to be 100. Minimum is 100 slots. Yeah, minimum is 100 slots which you get, which is going to be 2000 USD. So what usually I would recommend is, don't directly go into a flat rate. First, leave your stuffs working for a month, get the bill, see whether you are going to consistently going to use this much of data. You are going to query this, go for a flat rate. Flat rate. Because in the flat rate, if you reserve, it's going to be reservation kind of a stuff. Whether you query it or not, you will be charged to $2,000. So only if your query price, big query price in a month goes beyond 2,000, then purchasing 100 slot makes more sense. Makes more sense, so that you can reduce your bill. So I have seen one of the UPI based, the payment gateway based organization using BigQuery very heavily. So I was in one of that project, and their bill was at least 4 lakhs in BigQuery. So in India, so you can have something like that. So to reduce the bill there, you can have a reservation there, so that you will be reduced. The charge will be there. So this is where the reservation comes. For playing around with that reservation, you may use this uh, resource admin, where you commit your capacity, create all those things. Basically, that's where this resource admin comes into picture. So that's an important thing. Resource editor viewer, which falls on the same category, whether you can create a, can you reserve a capacity or delete it, all those things. So those are the roles which comes into picture when you are using BigQuery. Now let me show you one last part, and then we'll go to the next component in the GCP. So we did lots of stuffs. So uh, if you want to know who ran which query, the best way to explore that is in your query history. And query history is going to show you two tabs. One is personal and the project history. Well, personal is going to show only your name. What are the queries which you ran? But if I click on project history, many people make this mistake. So unless you, as long as you have the necessary permission, you should be able to see it. Now, as a project history, I'll be able to see everything here. Now, if you get a role where you need to do some cost optimization in BigQuery, I would say come explore the query history, put your project history, click on that tab, and see how much is the bytes used per query. Explore it. Uh, Sorry, explore it, and you should be able to get a better idea. So I have done this kind of a stuff in one of the organization and reduce the cost. So that's going to give you a good idea. When you're doing, you can do filter, all those things. This is going to be a good choice. Similarly, what kind of jobs they are loading, if you wanted to know, you come to your job history, which is going to be basically the load jobs. When you load it from a Google Cloud Storage bucket or from your local machine, all those things are going to be added here. Now, we also did load right a couple of times today. Even that is captured under project history. So this is how you can do it in the UI. But if you want to do the same thing in a command line fashion, uh, there is a command which could be useful. So if I just launch my Cloud Shell, so if I do BQ ls minus j for jobs minus a for all jobs, if I just do this, it's going to show me all the jobs which you have executed based on your role. So this is what you get it. The job ID. So wherever you see UX, it's basically run from your user interface, user experience, the UX, that's what it indicates. And if you don't see anything there, it's going to be from a command line. It's going to be from a command line. So that's how it shows it. So here, this command could be important from the exam perspective. To this is to show all the jobs, whether it is a query job or a load job. It's going to show you that. It's going to show you that. We started our stuffs from last Saturday, so it shows every such details. So I'm just going to add this in the cheat sheet. Uh, Gives all the query and load jobs. Load jobs. This is an important thing. Now there is a command, I'm not sure if it's going to work. It used to work in the past, now it's not working. But if I can give a try once, we'll just see. Maybe the syntax has changed. What I'm going to do is pick a specific, like how you do it in your UI. So you get the details of the job. If I just click on this, it shows me who ran it, what was the query, all those details, right? Something like that, if you wanted to see, you can be, and this is your job ID, folks. This is what you see. This is what you see it in the command line. So if you want to see something of that sort, what you can do is copy one of them, one of the job ID. Uh, Let me see whether this command works. So show job minus J. Okay, it shows me something like this. It used to actually work in the past. Syntax change. I'm not sure what happened. So let me give one more try to get the more details of it. So show hyphen help. So at least it can help us to get some details. Show job. Yeah, this is the usage. This is the usage, but it does not show me that very well. So let me just do J minus help. Can it show something better? No, it does not show me the stuff. It used to work, folks. It used to work. So this command used to work. I had also done a video on this. So if I can take one, anything, one, any more, anything, something different. Okay, is it taking white space? Let's see. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. I got it. Not no job found. Let me just search for this. So that was low job. If I search it here, do I get it? No. If I go to my query, I don't. Oh, there's a white space. Very strange. Or 1 minute. Let's just do this. Just wanted to show you because something on this I have seen in the exam. So I'll just copy this. I'll copy the entire name to be on the safer side. Something like this is what you are saying, Anil. So let's give it a try. Okay, thank you. So it worked. So if I just give a complete name, it works. So meaning, if I do this way, this was a job which did not work. So if I just use this way, it does not work. Maybe just the data set should be good enough. This data set, or I should put, so it shows job. This is my project ID. So I have to have my project ID and the location. Okay, let's see whether it works. Yeah, it works. So something like this. So it's not the data set, but the region in which the query ran. So the region in which this query ran. You see the project ID followed by your region. So because the slot was available in that region. So something of this sort is going to help you out to get the details, who ran it, how much byte process, all those things. So that's the stuff. I will add this also in the thing. So BigQuery job project ID, your region, then your job ID. Will give the details. So this is going to give you. So questions on this can also appear, folks. I had seen it, so hence I thought I'll at least share you that information. So now I guess that's something which I wanted to share on BigQuery. Now, a small question which I wanted to ask. I would give you 3 minutes to look into this question and come up with an answer. And I want you to put it in your private chat, not in the everyone, so that everybody can think. A little tricky question. I'll also give you an explanation later. So, but I want you to think into this first. So the question is: a customer is using BigQuery as an enterprise OLAP online analytical processing system. Data is distributed across project 1 and project 2. All queries on BigQuery need to be built on a specific project, on a GCP project called as billing. Don't be in a hurry to answer the question, folks. Understand the question. So there are totally 3 projects. Project 1, project 2, and a project called as billing. This is billing project. So 3 projects are there. You want to make sure no query costs are incurred on project 1 and project 2, but only data cost. So data cost, okay, meaning the table resides in this projects, basically, data cost. And no billing, query cost, no query cost should apply. User should be able to query you want to make sure that no query costs are incurred on project 1 and project 2. So if you don't want to incur it on there, it is assumed that it's implicit query cost will be in your billing project. That's the reason they have named that project as billing. So one centralized billing, something of that sort. User should be able to query the data set which is there in project 1 and project 2, but not edit them. How should you configure the user access? So let me know the answer. I will put this option at the bottom. Where should I put it? Something like this for your this thing, folks. Go ahead. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Slightly complex question. Let me know the answer. Please use your private chat. And something very similar I got in my recertification. Anil Kumar gave it correctly. One minute over, folks. 2 more minutes left. Anil B got it correctly. Anil Kumar and Anil B got it correctly so far. One wrong answer. One last minute left, folks. Deepak Bandari got it correctly. And two wrong answers so far. Three wrong answers. Three right answers, three wrong answers. Last 30 seconds, folks. Ankit got it correctly. So, all right, folks, time up. 3 minutes over. So let's look into the explanation. So basically, right, we have seen something like this. We have seen an option like this in our real demos only. What was that? So instead of treating it as project one, treat it as your public project, folks. The public data sets which you had, public data set. That was also a GCP project only. That was also a GCP project only. So where they had their data hosted, they were paying for their data cost. But when I queried it in my project, it was charged to my project. So this billing project was nothing but basically our projects which we are using. So in our case, batch 6, this is the setup. So once you understand this, right, it becomes easier to answer basically. So this is exactly the same thing which everybody have done. So when you run this query, when you run this query when you ran, so the table is in, if I just copy this, go to my BigQuery, show editor. So if I use my control button, go here, I'll come to know the table is, this is in a project called as BigQuery-samples. This is the project ID. The data set name is Wikipedia benchmark, and the table name is called as Wikipedia Wiki 10 million rows. So data is somewhere stored. Data is somewhere stored. But when I run this query, why it is not running is basically this query expects to run in US because data is in US. So your slots should be in US. So if I have something in Singapore, the processing location is going to throw me an error. So you can click on this setting, make it as processing location, either as automatic or US. Either one of them is going to work. So now it's going to work. Now when I run it, this is going to be my billing project. The billing project is going to be my batch 6. The data is in a different project. So that is the background for this. Now let's look into the stuffs. So grant the user the role of BigQuery user on the billing project. So what they are saying, so if there's a user, user one, grant this user BQ user role. User role is what they are saying, and data viewer role. So give user one BQ data viewer role. So if I give just data viewer role on the projects, on the public data set, I can just view the data, and we are very much sure I cannot even query it. We cannot even query it. So definitely I cannot modify the data. They had mentioned somewhere edit table should not be possible. So with this BigQuery data viewer, I will definitely be able to avoid that. I can see my preview so that I can get the details. Then I query it in my billing project. When I run that in my billing project, it's going to be charged to my billing project. So looks like a good choice. Looks like a good choice. So A is a good choice, I would say. Let's see, is there anything much better than this? So the only thing which can be much better than this is if you can do something with an IAM role. Data viewer, good. BigQuery user role, good. But there are possibilities which you can fine grain still. So, but A is a good choice. to start with, is what I would say. Going with option B, nobody gave option B. Some of you gave A actually. So hope the explanation is now clear. Grant user the BigQuery data viewer on billing project. So on the billing project, if I give data viewer, there's nothing there. There's no data there. So there's nothing to view there. And BigQuery user on the project that contains the data. So if I do there, right, if I have BigQuery user role on the project 1 and 2, I can go query it. I can go query it, right? So if I query it, it's going to incur cost in that project. But the requirement is you should never have any query cost in project 1 and 2. They can only have data cost. So P will not fulfill my requirement. It's going to be totally opposite of what is the requirement. So going back to the option C, going to the next option C, grant the user BigQuery data viewer, exactly same like this, and BigQuery job users. Now the first two options were focusing towards BigQuery user role. The bottom two, C and D, are focusing on job user. Job user could be a good choice because it's going to be a principle of least privilege, but something slightly opposite would have worked. Meaning, for your billing project, if you had given job user role so that I can query it, I bill it to that billing project, and data viewer role to the public data set or to project 1 and project 2, it would have worked. But C is totally opposite, but still using principle of least privilege. So then the leftover is going to be our option D, where BigQuery job user on the billing project, exactly like the demo which I did. So I gave Mahesh at the rate learnwithmahesh.com job user role, and I was able to query a public data set. So I was charged to my batch 6, but the data was somewhere residing somewhere else. So option D is the, if you see option D and A, both are right. A and D both are right. But if you go with the principle of least privilege, what you need is just to query it. So you should not go and create data sets in your billing projects. What will happen if you give a BigQuery user role in the billing project? He will go and create a data set. He will load a data. If he loads a data, storage cost is going to come into picture. So which is again going to be against what they are mentioning. And principle of least privilege is also broken. So with those considerations, if you see option D makes more sense. Only 4 of you were able to get it. Ankit, Ankit, Anil B, Anil Kumar, Deepak Bandari got it. Uh, so hope the explanation is clear, folks. Was a very tricky question, is what I would say, basically. So that was the whole reason why we were doing lots of demos. So you may get questions related to IAM, so tricky questions. And this is also a standard use case in real production systems. They want to do something like this. So we have tried to see that in our demo itself. So at least now it's clear. Hope it's clear, folks. For folks who gave the wrong answer, hope it's clear. Yes, no. You have been a little quiet today. Okay, thank you, folks. So thank you. So that's the end of BigQuery. I guess we have spent rock solid around 10 hours, if I'm not wrong, on BigQuery itself. So what we'll do now is we'll take a 10 minutes break. Once we come back from the break, we'll look into a new module or a sub module in big data called as PubSub, publisher and subscriber. An important one for any streaming analytics is an important component. We'll explore more on this in today's class. BigQuery demo, we are going to do one more demo, folks. Once we learn 2 more components, maybe tomorrow we'll do a streaming demo on BigQuery. So I remember Vivek had asked, are we going to do a demo on streaming? So we are going to do that in tomorrow's class because we need to understand 2 components which support streaming. Then only we can use BigQuery streaming option. Okay, so take a 10 minutes break, come back. Once we come back, we'll look into a new module, sub module called as PubSub, publisher and subscriber. So let me stop.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right. So before the break, we finished our BigQuery concepts. So spend good amount of time there. So now we move on to PubSub. Now, before we go into this PubSub, right, let me take a real use case and sincere apologies for bringing this website on to this, because I usually don't try to do this, but wanted to show you what happened to this. So people who are in India will know this website. So there's a website which you can use to register to get your vaccination stuff. I guess all of us are more than 18 years. Definitely, you would have at least tried once for yourself to get vaccinated. So in this website, the reason why I brought this website, I usually try to avoid these things, sharing this in the class, because already outside, most of them are talking about COVID. Even in the training, if I bring it, it does not make sense. So but the reason why I bought this website is today actually is where the 18 years vaccination starts. But what I heard is when this was opened, registration was opened 2 days or 3 days back, there was one particular time where the website crashed because there were so many volunteer people above 18 years wanted to register for the vaccination and the website crashed. So I guess you have seen this news who are in India. So what could have been done better to avoid this website, this kind of crashing of website better? Any thoughts, folks, before we go into the PubSub stuff? Any thoughts from your perspective? How you could have avoided the website getting crashed? Why it crashed? All of a sudden, because it would have had a capacity, right? They would have had a specific, maybe that website is running on a virtual machine, for example. Now it can handle this many number of requests. Now, all of a sudden, maybe on 28th or 29th, when it was opened up, all of a sudden a huge request came and the website crashed. So no auto scaling. Possibly that was the main reason why it crashed. Uh, so Vivek mentions asynchronous integration. So if you want to do something with auto scaling, you have to go with MIG resource got exhausted. Yes. Now, how I could have avoided uh, auto scale the crash? Two options with the stuffs which we know basically. Yes, Anil. So Anil B and Vivek got it the way what you. So there are two ways which I can do. Now I can do basically auto scaling. I'm not sure whether it's on cloud. I assume it is going to be on cloud mostly. So if it's not in cloud, let's take an example on premise for a minute. Let's assume it is in on premise. Now on premise, it is running on basically, let's give a decent system configuration, something like this. This is what this website is having, just a assumption here. Now all of a sudden, so this can handle maybe something like 50,000 user request per second. Maybe on 28th of April or 29th of April, maybe double of this came voluntarily to register for a vaccine. So more than the capacity, it started crashing. So now to increase it, I can do something like this. I can make it as 32 vCPU and 64 GB of RAM. This could have been done, but assume it is on premise. You cannot do so easily. You have to go through a procurement process, do all those things. And if the procurement team says, no, we don't have enough budget, you cannot do any increase in the machine type. You have to leave with this itself. Means what you can do, they may say we can give you something like 4 VCP or something, but not double. We cannot do that. Not possible. If they say that way, okay, they're saying it's like 5.7 million requests per second. Okay, so that's per minute per second would be lesser. It's not wrong if I were divided by that. So it was a huge request. So if I cannot increase my system, then on premise you'll always have this kind of a constraint, and they say you cannot do it. If it is in cloud, definitely the concept which we have learned could have been applied. So managed instance group you could have applied, or if they had containerized that app, they could have used auto scaling features, which you get horizontal pod scaling and the node auto scaling features they could have used and then done that. But even those things, right, I've already mentioned. So you will have a limit. So when you do auto scaling, you would have mentioned minimum 1 instance, maximum 10 instances. But if the number of requests, if you see what Mangesh mentions, like it's more than millions, in millions of requests if it's coming, definitely even my auto scaling would have definitely hit an error saying that no, service unavailable. Even with our MIG, we would have hit it because we would have put a quota. We would have reached our project quota very soon, saying that, and we would have got 503 error. Now, to avoid all those things, like what Vivek and Anil we mentioned, we could have done slightly different. We could have done slightly different. What is that? So here we are not relying much on infrastructure. We are going to rely on a software called as messaging service. Messaging service. What this is going to do is basically you queue up it. Queue up. Now, if a room can only fit 100 people and you wanted to fit 1,000 people there, either the room will not be sufficient or there's going to be chaos there. So what you do instead of that, queue it. Queue it, only serve 1,000 users at a slot at a time period. So remaining people, let them stand outside in a queue. Basically, that is the concept which works here. So a millions of users hitting the website, yes. The first part of the website could have been better, where you could have handled it. The login screen could have been better. You log in. But when you click on, there is a registration process there. Basically, you fill in the details and click on submit. You don't give the response right away. What you do is you will say, we will process it back, we'll get back to you. So what happens basically is you send everything to a queuing system. So the popular queuing systems are Apache Kafka. There is something like RabbitMQ, ActiveMQ. There are lots of open source messaging service where what you do is you keep on queuing it. Whenever the system, now the system is good enough to handle 50,000 requests. So if 1 lakh or 10,000, 100K request comes into picture, basically, make sure you queue and serve only the stuff which you can serve. Remaining things would be queued. So once the first the 50,000 requests are processed, the remaining 50,000 will be processed. So this way you can avoid scaling your system to a great extent, but use the concept of queuing or messaging. So this way you should be able to handle such crashes. So, and that is the same thing which we are going to learn in PubSub, which can basically help handle huge amount of data coming, handle it, queue it whenever your downstream application can come up. Now, in this case, my downstream application is this one, which is running the website. So there could be a specific service, a microservice, which can handle only this much of requests at a given point of time. So queue it, send whenever you have that processing capacity available, you send it. Otherwise, keep the data in this queue. Only when it is the enough spaces or enough processing capacity is available, they can pull this, or you can push it based on the kind of delivery type you have chosen. So that's basically the background for this use case, or looking into this product called as publisher and subscriber, which is basically a global real-time messaging service. You have something very similar in other cloud providers also. In AWS, it is called as Kinesis, and in your Azure, it is called as in AWS, you will have two services, SNS or some kind of that. Kinesis is also possible. Two options are there. So in Azure, it is your event hub. Event hub. I would say Google's name is little better in this context, publisher and subscriber. So what is this basically is what we are going to see. It's a fully managed global serverless messaging service. You send a message, it's going to be queued, kept there for 7 days, so that any downstream application, if it can come within 7 days, it can pull the data and do the necessary processing on it. Basically, that's what it is going to do. And this is the second product which we are seeing as a global resource. So as a global resource. So the first product which we saw was basically a VPC, firewall rules, routes, uh, sometimes the load balancer IP address. So The next set of product which we are seeing, which is global, under our big data category is PubSub. So it's a global resource. Last year, they also launched a product called as a lightweight version of this called as PubSub Lite, which is a zonal resource. So if your requirement is nobody is going to come from, it does not need a global presence, then you can go with a zonal uh, PubSub called as PubSub Lite, where your cost is going to little reduce. So if you have a website which has to have a global presence, this product could be really helpful. So PubSub is a global resource. PubSub, it's a global resource, no for all other stuffs. And there is one more version called as PubSub Lite, which was launched last year. Uh, I guess it is zonal. It's a zonal resource. So what it does basically is the asynchronous way, which Anil was mentioning. So Anil B. So it provides a asynchronous messaging service. So you don't need to be tightly coupled. So what do you mean by asynchronous thing? So a simple example could be of emails, folks. Email or WhatsApp message, all those things basically are your asynchronous thing. So what do you mean by asynchronous? It does not expect the other person to be online. So if you are trying to use a phone, a normal phone call, the other person should be in a place where there's a tower, nearby tower, there's a signal, all those things. Only then you get connected, you can talk. But if you send an email, it does not need that person. You don't expect the person to be always online. So he may come online, connect to internet after 2 hours. But the message which you send will be shared with them. So it's going to be retrieved at that time. So SMS is a great example for that. So if you switch off your phone for 1 hour or 2 hours, so in that time period, if there's any message which comes, when you turn it on, it's going to be pushed to your phone. Same is the case with other messaging services. So this way, you don't expect the system, both the system, the publisher and the one who's going to consume it, to be online always. So that's where it is going to be a decoupled sender and receiver. Asynchronous. It's not synchronous. I'm not waiting you till you give me the response. I'm not going to be waiting. So I just send the data. When you are available, you read it. Basically, that's normal stuff, right? So that's what we do usually these days. So with our messaging services, or sorry, with our social media stuff, we just mention your data. Whenever people want, they look into it. So that is a key part which PubSub helps you to do. And the input to this PubSub could be a file. You can send a file content. You can send a textual database. Most of the time, it's going to be textual data. It could be a set, a defined set, batch data, or it could be a continuous data which is continuously flowing. For example, data from your sensors, IoT devices, where they continuously send data. So that could be an input to your PubSub. So once the message receives is reached PubSub, it's going to be called as a topic. It's going to be called as a topic. So a slightly different terminology which they use. So outside of PubSub, it's going to be a telemetry data or a message. Message could be as simple as hello, hi, whatever it is, or it could be as complex as a base 64 encoded content. So you can also send images via PubSub. I'll show you a demo towards the once we finish this explanation. You can send any kind of textual data to PubSub. Once it reaches PubSub, it is called as a topic. And this topic can be subscribed by a subscriber and can be consumed for doing any next level of processing. So usually the data which reaches PubSub is going to be in a raw format. Raw format, you have to transform it, make it look nice, easy to understand, then send it to your next layer like a database or a data warehouse. So data which reaches your PubSub topic can be retained maximum for 7 days. So for example, let's take a simple example like I'll just go to one slide next and come back here. So let's take an example like employee joining an organization. Employee joining an organization. I'm going to use this one and let me take my highlighter. So let's just focus on this part. Uh, employee. One employee is one message. One message. Or assume it is a staffing team. So usually most of the organizations, they have this onboarding on Thursdays or Fridays so that the employee starts the work on Monday. So assume it's Friday or Thursday, hundreds of new joinees join the organization. Onboarding that what is that usually called? An onboarding process happens usually. They give all the details. Now there are 100 employee information there. So that has been pushed to PubSub. The message when it comes to PubSub, it is going to be called as topic. It's a topic. Now, this can be subscribed by so many downstream applications. One of the applications could be IT team. It could be this one, could be an IT team. It is very important. This 100 information which has come messages, which is one message is equal to one employee details. This has to be processed by this IT team right away. The reason is on Monday, they should be able to access their system, their email address, all those things. Assume this one is your payroll system. This payroll system does not need to be so active. So because if the employee has joined on the first of the month, the system has still 30 days to update it. So it does not need to be up. Maybe the payroll system had a downtime when this message was sent. So what's going to happen is this topic is going to be retained for 7 days maximum. That is the upper limit. Beyond that, you cannot do anything. So after 7 days, the data is going to go off. So maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, the payroll system comes up. It's going to pull all the information about the employees, and basically go and do the processing, add them to the payroll system so that they get the salary on the end of the month. So that's where this messaging service works very nicely. So downstream, it does not expect the downstream application to be always active or available. It may be have gone down. So it comes up. When it comes, it's going to pull this information. So this is how basically it works. And you can relate this very well to your WhatsApp expiring messages. If somebody don't see the message for 7 days, the seven has a magic number, I would say. So everybody prefers to use seven actually. Uh, SMS, WhatsApp, all these things have the seven number. So more than 7 days, if you don't see it, the message is going to be expired. And it could be something like you cannot have a SLA as low as something like a system going down never comes up even after 7 days. You don't have such a system, is what I understand basically. So if it is down, it may be down for a day, for an hour, maybe for 3 days or 4 days. But once it comes back, the data is there. You pull that information, do the processing. Basically, that's the gist here. Password link, something of that sort. You can relate it. Yes. So basically, this is what happens with your PubSub. So I'll go back. So maximum the data is going to be there in the queue for 7 days. Afterwards, it's going to be expired. And you can make this as low as 10 minutes also. 10 minutes also based on your requirement. So this topic is going to be consumed by subscriber, sent to a downstream application where they can do any process. So as per the statistics or the documentation, Google mentions PubSub can handle 1 million messages per second. It's not minute, per second. 1 million messages it can handle very easily. I guess 2 or 3 years back, Netflix tried to load almost like 2 million messages per second, and the system worked without any degradation. So there was no impact on PubSub. And Netflix is one organization who uses every best features available in every cloud. They are an AWS customer, they are a GCP customer, so they use the best feature. So Netflix is a good example there. So compared connecting to PubSub, they were able to load it very effectively and it worked very beautifully. So uh, which is more than what is the SLA program. So that's really good. And what PubSub does is basically it is going to guarantee one-time delivery. So once it is in the queue in the top in the PubSub, one-time delivery it's going to be doing. That's guaranteed. That's guaranteed always. Order is now can be maintained. So the slide I have to update it actually. The order, right? So if you send first message, it has to be received in the same order. So that you were not expecting, that was not happening in the beginning. So now they have released a feature called as ordering. How it has been sent, the same way it has to be received. First in, first out, something of that sort. Previously, it was first in, any option can come out. So based on logic there. So what was the logic? I'm not sure. But that order was not maintained in the beginning days. Now they have a new feature called as, if you want, you can turn on this ordering. Otherwise, you can also do it in your downstream application. Like it could be in a database where you sort it by time or something, you get an order. So because it's a messaging service, it supports MQTT protocol, the standard protocol for any queuing system. So message queuing telemetry data, it supports that basically. So that's something on your PubSub, basically a messaging service equivalent to your Kafka, RabbitMQ, ActiveMQ kind of stuff. But remember, if it's Kafka, you have to install it on a virtual machine. So, but here it is going to be totally serverless. You don't need to much worry about it. And when we do the demo, you will see it. At least some of the serverless products which you have seen, like data store, BigQuery, then Google Cloud Storage, App Engine. At least we used to mention what is the region or the multi-region. But since PubSub is global, right? You will not even mention that, folks. Directly go start creating a topic and use it. Will not mention even any region also because it's a global resource. So that's the biggest advantage I would say. To be very frank, my exposure on this messaging service was very, very limited, but started using a PubSub to a great extent where everything was handled by Google. So you just need to send the data, use it, and whenever you want, you consume it. So a very, very handy option when it comes, and it supports different options, fan out, fan in kind of communications, many to many, one to many to one, all those things. Now, this architecture or this diagram is taken from the documentation itself. Uh, Sometimes people get little confused with this architecture. So let me, this diagram, let me explain you what happens. Now, this is the product, folks. The one which is in the blue color is your PubSub. Please make a note. This is your PubSub. It acts like a water pipe. It's like a water pipe where your message is there. When you open a tap, the tap is going to be like your subscriber, where that you pull the information. A small analogy. Now you can have basically many to one. So this one is many to one. You have one, two, but only one subscriber. This subscriber is basically a downstream application. So you can use this as an example for your um, various use cases. For example, employee joining itself. So one message, so this could be employee joining may not be a good choice, sorry. So here there are two applications which keeps now in our case, it could be that Covin example, the website. So many people are trying to send login. So they're going to send a message. I want to book my appointment. So that's a message. That's a message. Uh, that's a okay. Sorry. My bad. That's not going to be a good example. This one is going to be a good example. One talk. It has to go to one talk. So there are lots of messages which you can send. One website, one publisher, one website. You can send n number of messages from there. So it all reaches one topic, which can be consumed by multiple subscribers. So maybe one is going to be a SMS notification. one is going to be a database update. So you can have such subscribers who pull it and do the necessary downstream processing. So this is one option where you are going to use one to many, one publisher, many subscribers, or you can have many publishers, one subscriber. But the key part is this one, which is in this blue color stuff. Any data which is in a message format becomes a topic, which can be subscribed by a subscription. And one important thing to note here is the diagram really little confuses. So if you have a subscriber, a subscription to be very specific, one subscription is always to one topic. This subscription YC cannot subscribe to another topic. One subscription to one topic. This can be pulled and used by multiple downstream applications. So that is going to be different. So the downstream applications are going to be called as subscriber. What is going to be created in your GCP is going to be a subscription. So little playing with the words. So make sure you understand the concept very clearly. So a message is still outside of GCP. Once it reaches PubSub, it's going to be called as a topic. That is going to be in a raw format. I will pull it or push it based on the delivery type. Then I'm going to basically get the data. I'll get this message 3 back here, which can be consumed by a downstream application. Basically, that's how it works. So any questions on this part, folks? Any questions on this diagram? Okay, no questions. Now let's do a small demonstration. And as I mentioned, we will do one more demo on PubSub. The one which we are going to do now is a very basic demonstration, Yes, tomorrow we should be able to do a little comprehensive demonstration because we need few more components. We are going to use BigQuery, PubSub, and one more product called as data flow to make a comprehensive streaming analytics demo. Okay. So first, let's explore how PubSub works. Basically, everything I'm going to do it in the UI. So tomorrow we can do something in our command line. So if I go to my batch 6, under big data, you'll see publisher and subscriber. So you see the light topic, light subscription. So that's the one which I mentioned in Zoom. So click on topics. This is what you see basically, a screen. Now you directly create a topic. If you click on topic, it never asks you whether you want to create this topic in Mumbai region, Singapore region, or in US Central. Because it's a global resource, you don't get that option itself. So you just create a topic, start using it, and your topic, my topic, all are going to be in the same distributed system behind the scene. The way it is going to differentiate my topic and your topic is using our project ID. So if I just put something like a demo topic, the way it gets differentiated, you can also create the same name. It does not need to be unique. So the way it's going to differentiate from your topic and my topic is my project ID. Project ID is going to be globally unique. So that way your topic and my topic gets differentiated. So now there is a option. These are some new options which has been turned on. So I'm not going to add this. I'm going to uncheck it. So what basically it does is you create a topic. You can also add a default subscription. We will not add it now. Why? I'll tell you later. So, and you can also have a schema defined. So what kind of pattern of data you are going to send, that you can do it. And there's also Google Manage Encryption Key possibility. So if you just mouse over on this subscription with, if I use demo-topic, my subscription it's going to create is going to be called as demo-topic-sub. And it says these are the stuffs which is going to create. Delivery type is going to be full, 7 days of retention, expires after 31 days of inactivity, 10 seconds of acknowledgement. So this is how it's going to create it. We will not use this option, but just to show you how it looks like. Now I have just created a topic. Just click on create. And this is a global resource. This is a global resource. Let's just wait for the topic to get created. Done. So the topic is created. It gives me a warning message. Topic has no subscriptions and messages published will be lost. So it is like if I just go back to this. So you send a message to the topic which you created because it does not have any subscriber or subscription, to be very specific, the data would be immediately lost. It is like playing football without a goal post. So something of that sort. So because there's no subscription, why should I retain it for 7 days? It's going to immediately delete it. So immediately delete it. So I wanted to show that part. At least a new user interface now makes that option, create a default subscription. But in the past, it was not there. So let me just create publish a message. Publish a message using the small interface. Click on publish. Uh, there are lots of options here. Look at this warning message. It's going to be lost immediately is what it says. So I'm going to say this is this message. You can type anything. It's a free text. You can put it in JSON format, XML format, base64, any option you can do it. This message will be not delivered. That's it. Published. Published. And we will never be able to see that because it does not have a subscription itself. Now, let me create a subscription now. So either you can click on here or go to your subscription. There's no subscription. You can create a subscription where you can call with demo topic -sub. And whenever you do it, we have seen it in the diagram, right? One subscription is only to one topic. This subscription cannot have it for multiple topics. One subscription per topic. That's what you can do. So that's where this is a mandatory field. You have to select what is your uh, uh, what's your topic, so that I can pull the data or have a mechanism of push. So pull is going to be a manual way. Pull is going to be a manual way. If pull, subscriber must request a delivery type, request delivery. If it is push, the message is going to be published as soon as it receives, more like a notification. So pull is going to be manually you're going to pull it. So a manual process should be there. For now, let's make it as pull. We'll make it as push in our next demo. So maybe I can just highlight push for a minute. So when I mention pull, I don't need to mention it because I'm going to manually go and pull it. So, but when I'm pushing it, right, there should be some endpoint where I push this. The downstream application should have an endpoint which can consume it as the messages are going. It should be able to do it. Sometimes no messages will come. Sometimes all of a sudden huge messages will come. So the downstream application should be able to handle this because you are mentioning it as push. So your system should be able to scale up and down very easily. And it's an URL, an endpoint. What would be the best choice which you can propose here, folks? If it's a push mechanism where you need to have a downstream application which can scale up and down whenever it happens, because PubSub is global. PubSub is global, so it should be able to consume the data and do the next level of processing. So, and it should be an URL. It should be a URL, a web application, a kind of a web application. Vivek mentions it as Cloud Run. Anything else? Cloud Run is a good choice. It's serverless. Huge data comes, I can scale up. If no data comes, I don't have anything, I scale down. Cloud Functions is a good choice. App Engine Standard is a good choice. So these are all serverless. Flexible will not work because you need to have minimum one. If you want to have minimum one always to avoid hold startup time, flexible could be a good choice. App Engine, Cloud Functions, Cloud Run is all good choices because it's serverless. Uh, Google Cloud Storage Bucket will not be a good choice. Will not be a good choice. And we will do a real demo. Don't worry. We'll do a demonstration with push notification also. So don't worry. That's the next part of the demo. So when it comes to basically push, an endpoint should be provided. You have to provide an endpoint, so which is going to get the data and send it to the downstream application. It should have that capability. And we, as cloud architects, are not going to write any code. I'll show you an easy trick how to get this done. Okay, so basically our compute options gets used here. Avoid using a virtual machine. Scalability could be a problem. You can use Kubernetes engine if you have that auto scaling turned on. Even there, you will have an issue there. Serverless products like App Engine Standard, Cloud Functions, or Cloud Run is a really a good fit uh, for the endpoint development, where you're going to get a notification from your PubSub topic. So I'm going to put it back as full. The minimum retention time is going to be 7 days. The maximum is 7 days. Minimum can be as low as 10 minutes. We cannot go less than 10 minutes. Minimum 10, maximum is 7 days. So after 7 days, if there is some data in the PubSub topic, it's going to be deleted automatically, basically. So that's the reason if you switch off your phone for weeks, if you turn on your phone after a week, then all your old SMS would be removed by your telecom provider. Same concept. Same concept. I'm going to retain it as 7 days. And there is a feature called as retain acknowledged messages. What happens basically is when there is a subscription, you go and pull it, it's the push mechanism. The moment the data is being consumed by the subscription, the data is going to be removed from your topic. That's the default behavior. It's not going because it's already consumed. It's been acknowledged. Why do you need to retain it still? So as a default behavior, you remove it from your PubSub so that you can reduce the cost of storage or retaining it. But there could be some scenarios where you want to retain it. So what is going to happen? Acknowledge messages will be kept 7 days from the publication unless you set otherwise the retention policy. So even after acknowledging it, the data is going to be retained for 7 days. One possible use case could be like this. One possible use case. Now, assume you have an application to be built. There are multiple subscriptions going to happen. Subscribers, to be very specific, they are going to be one is going to be one application. Sorry, power is going up. Okay, 1 minute. Let me read this. So, one subscriber is up. This is a downstream application. So now this downstream application is currently fully up and running. You may have a second downstream application coming in maybe a couple of days. There's some delay in the delivery of that product. So it's going to come in next few days. But within 7 days, it's going to come is the understanding. So in such case, this option could be helpful so that the downstream application can get this new messages and capture. That could be one option is what I feel basically. So if you have only one subscription, message 3 comes. Once the message 3 is being used, it is going to be deleted in the topic. But if I retain it, what I can do is I can have any other application coming, at least see this data and use it. Possibilities are there. That's the only possible use case which I think of. Think of any other use case which comes to your mind. So there is an option to retain it for maximum 7 days. So that's not the default setup. Moment it is acknowledged, it's going to be removed. And your subscription, whether you want to never expire the subscription or you want to expire if there's no activity. Your choice. You can do it. And you have to send an acknowledgement to PubSub topic within 10 seconds. Default is going to be 10, maximum is going to be 10 minutes. So within this, if you don't do it, what the PubSub topic thinks is, okay, maybe the subscription is having some issue. Let me retain it. So if you don't acknowledge it within 10 seconds, based on this setup, it's going to retain it. You pull this, but you don't give an acknowledgement within 10 seconds. It's going to think, oh, something has gone wrong, so let me retain it. So that is how it basically works. So your acknowledgement deadline, how quickly you can respond back, you can control it from here. And now there's a new feature where you can put some filtering to filter only a specific kind of a message. Lots of messages may be coming. It's most like a broadcast. So all the messages is going to be pushed, but as a subscription, you may be interested in only some very few messages. You put a filter there where you're going to say only if this is having this specific attribute, only consume it. Otherwise, other things I don't consume it. Basically, so like how you do basically like filters in your email, where only people from a specific set you want to be interested in seeing it, you just see that. Any other junk messages, you don't even see it. Something like it, you can put a filter here, where this filter would be really helpful when you have something like this, one to many, one publisher, many subscriptions kind of subscribers, where you can put a filter. So because it's a broadcast, right? Everything is going to go through this topic only. So not every data I'll be interested in. So what I will do is I'll put a filter only with this attribute. I'll take it. Otherwise, I'll not take it. Something of that sort is going to be helpful here. And the last one, last few options are this one. This is a new feature which was added, I guess, some 8 months back or so, where you can order it. You just need to turn this on. Order message will be a order messaging in an ordering key. So if you enable it, what you have published first, it's going to come in the same one. So I will not do this because I wanted to show you by default ordering is not enabled. I wanted to show you that. And there is a few other options called as dead letter. So what is this dead letter? So you keep on trying to send it to the subscription, but the subscription is failing again and again and again. So you can set basically how many times you want to send it, how many times you want to send it. So if you say basically 5 times I'm going to try delivering it to the subscription. If it's not able to retrieve it, I'm going to send it to another topic. Something like it's like, say, for example, in your office, if you have a mailbox where you get a physical emails, uh, uh, if nobody takes it, they're going to put it under a common place where if it belongs to you, you go and take it. It's going to be something like a trash. So where you can create a new topic, something like dead letter. So here the data is going to be there for 7 days again. You put it here, and it's going to say it's going to use a default subscription, all those things. So if it's not attempting, if it's trying to attempt and it's not successful, it's going to just put it into this. So that's an option of dead letter which you can use. I'm not going to use that part. And retry policy, how frequently I should retry. Should I use basically immediately I should retry if I'm failing to deliver, or I use an exponential backup delay. This is an important one from the exam perspective. So this concept works always good. So what kind of approach you should do when you are failing continuously? This exponential backup delay. So in very, very simple terms, if you try to call a person, if the person does not pick the phone, don't try to call him immediately. He may be in a meeting, so that's the reason he's not picking up. So instead of that, give a delay of 10 minutes and then call. Even if that time he does not pick it up, then give a delay of 15 minutes and try to call him. There's a chance that he may pick the call because his meeting would have been finished. The same concept works with the systems also. If you send a request, if it cannot consume it, maybe the system is already overloaded. Don't try to send it continuously, which is going to make the system still worse. Instead of that, have an exponential backup. So 10 minutes, 10 seconds, I'm going to wait, try it again. 20 seconds, I'm going to try it. I'll keep on doing it for maximum 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Even after 10 minutes, the system is not responding, I'll not even try it. The same thing, right? We'll try it once, twice, thrice. If the person does not pick, we just don't call him. The same concept works here. Avoid doing immediately. So always have a retry mechanism. Retry with a backup, exponential backup delay. That's a better choice. But I'm going to leave it as default for our demo because our demo is going to be very, very basic demo. So those are the setup which you get for your subscription. Topic was very simple. Just give a name, it got created. But subscription has lots of options. So we are going to create with a full delivery, right? After I finish this, we will do a demo on push. So let me click on create. Subscription is created. Subscription is created. Now, if I go to my topic, I don't need this. Maybe I'll just delete this. So when I click on my topic now, that warning message would be gone. The warning message would be gone. Now I'm good. Now if I try to view the message, remember we had sent one message where there's no subscription. Now if I go and view that, what was there in the queue, let me try to see, pull it. Nothing should come because that message was already deleted. So you can try a number of times, you are not going to get any response. So the whole reason why I showed that, did that was without a subscription, the topic is going to be of no use. So a topic should be there, at least one subscription should be there. Only then your messages are going to be delivered. So I tried a couple of times, I'm not able to get that because that is already deleted from the topic. So there's no fun in retrieving it again and again. It's not going to come. Now let me publish few messages and see whether it's going to be received. It's going to be received or not. So, and we'll try different formats, folks. So publish a message. I'll publish it as hello, batch 6 learners, which is a textual data. And I can put some attributes. So I'm going to put an attribute. Before this ordering concept came into picture, right? People used to use this attribute, order ID 1. So because this is going to be an attribute which I'm going to get it. So in my downstream application, I will basically do order by order underscore ID field so that I can sort it and get the basically I'll get my order in place. That's how we used to do it in the beginning days. So publish it. One message published. Let me publish one more message. And folks, in reality, people will not do like this. And because this is the first time we are learning the concept, I'm doing it manually. So tomorrow we will do it something in a more programmatic way. Okay, this is going to be sent by a system, not like this. Okay. So for our learning purpose, I'm doing this in a small demonstration. Now let me send a JSON file. So name, big data or module underscore name, big data, gamma, duration. So I'll mention it as 15 hours. Then completed as a Boolean value false. So this is my JSON data. I can also add an attribute here. Order underscore ID to publish. Now I have published two messages. Now I wanted to show how I can publish basically a textual data, sorry, a image. So if I take an image, GCP logo, yeah, this one should be good enough. Save this on my local machine. So I'll just call it as GCP. So that's an image. So that's an image. What I can do is an image can be converted into textual format using a process called as base64 encoding. So if you just search for base64 image, there are websites, there are utilities which you can get it where the image can be converted into textual format. So convert your image into base64. Base64 is going to be always in a textual format, but not a readable one, not a readable text. So I'll just upload this. Now this is copied. This is the code, folks. This is my base64 encoded content. So usually web developers use this basically in a textual format. So you don't need to upload the image. If you just have this content, you should be able to see the image. So that is what I'm going to use now to send it as a message. This is my base64 encoded content of GCP logo. This is the content. Okay, this is the content. Now, like this, I can send up to 10 MB. Maximum is the message size can be 10 MB. Let me add this attribute order ID 3. So 3 different types of messages we have sent. One is a simple text, one is a JSON format, the other one is basically image, but in a base64 encoded form. Now, let me go and view the message. Now, to view the message, you have to select a topic. Sorry, a subscription, my bad. You select a subscription. Now, go ahead and pull it. It shows the stuff. It shows the stuff. Now, what do you see it, folks, first? What do you see first here? Where is your first message? What you have got is basically your JSON, your image content. Your first message has not even been retrieved. So this is the key part where you see the order is never the same unless you turn on the ordering. By default, there's no ordering, but delivery is going to be done at least once. Now, if I do it one more time, pull, maybe my, oh, it's not coming up. Yeah, now it came. After the third pull, I was able to get my first message. Now you can order it by this, however you want, you can do it. You can play around with your ordering. Now, n number of times I keep pulling, it's going to keep on getting the data. The reason is you have not acknowledged. As a subscription, you have not acknowledged the topic saying that, yes, I have received your data. Unless you don't acknowledge it, it's going to be retained for 7 days. Now, how do I acknowledge it? Just give this option. Click on pull. You get this acknowledge button. In 10 seconds, you have to acknowledge it. If you don't acknowledge it, it's going to become like exceeded. It's going to show that acknowledgement exceeded, deadline exceeded. So within 10 seconds, you have to acknowledge it. So let me pull it one more time. Acknowledged, done. Now, my JSON data will never be ever shown because I have acknowledged it. So it's going to be totally removed from the queue. So this too, I'm not going to acknowledge it. So it's going to be there in the queue for a longer time. Maximum is 7 days. So if I acknowledge my image, that's also gone. That's also gone. Lastly, if I acknowledge this, I don't have anything to be processed. I have done all my work as a downstream application. So this is basically your full delivery time. So which was little manual and we have to do all the circus here. Now what we'll do is we'll try to do one more little sophisticated, not so sophisticated, but little sophisticated demo where we are going to use basically a option called as delivery type called as push. So for that, we are going to use cloud functions. We are going to use cloud functions. Remember, when we did cloud functions, there are three different types of trigger types. If it's an HTTP request, you can call it cloud functions. If it is a Google Cloud Storage bucket, you upload anything to a Google Cloud Storage bucket, it triggers. And there was one more option called as PubSub topic. At that time, I mentioned we don't know PubSub. We will do it during PubSub class. So now we have learned what is PubSub. We'll try to use cloud functions. So we try to trigger a cloud functions. You can just click on this option. So it's going to, whenever a new message is going to be sent, it's going to trigger this cloud function. So let's click on this trigger cloud function option. So I'll call this as GCF trigger. We had seen trigger HTTP trigger Google Cloud Storage bucket. Now we are going to see trigger PubSub topic. So this is the one which I'm talking about. We had seen HTTP storage also. This we did not see it. Remaining things are in beta. We are not going to use or do anything on that. So this is the one. So where you want to create a PubSub topic, you can create it. So this has no connection to your PubSub because PubSub, what you are using is a global resource. You prefer where your cloud function should be. I'm going to leave it as default US Central. So I have mentioned it is going to be triggered by a PubSub topic. What is the topic details? You have to mention it. But if you click it from trigger from a cloud functions in PubSub, it's going to auto populate. It's going to auto populate. Save this. Then go to the next section. I can write it in any of the available languages which I have. So we can use Python, Node.js, Java, lots of options. Choose the language which is of your choice. So I'm just going to leave it as Node.js, maybe the latest version of Node.js. The stable version 14 is what I'm going to say. Now this is the output, folks. What's going to do is it's going to get the data, the event.data is where your actual message is going to be mentioned. So this is going to log in your stack driver logs or the cloud log. Morning we saw in for our BigQuery, the similar log is what we are going to see. So it is just going to output what you are going to send, basically. So that's it. Let me click on deploy. When I do this one, right, it's going to create a subscription for you automatically. So it's going to create a subscription automatically for you. Let me just show you this option. You don't need to do anything. And this subscription is going to be of type push. So it's just creating it. You see currently there's only one which we created, which is of delivery type pull. So let's just wait for a few more seconds. We should have a still not there. Still not there. We have to wait for this to be completely deployed. Let me just refresh it one more time. On that. Let's wait for the cloud functions to completely create it. The reason why it takes little longer time is it's going to create a subscription of type push. Should be there, not there. Let's just wait. Taking longer time. Okay, now it is created. It is created. Now, if I go, yeah, I see a new subscription with the name GCF. Just indicate it is used for Google Cloud function, because our name of our function was GCF trigger PubSub, the name of the cloud function, colon, the region, and to which topic. Demo hyphen topic is our name. So the most important thing is push. The delivery type is of push. Now, if it's a delivery type of push, definitely there should be an endpoint, is what we understood. That was a mandatory piece. Now, what is the endpoint which Google has created is a curious thing. Let's go ahead and see by just looking into the details of this subscription. So I will edit this. Now you see an endpoint, folks. You see an endpoint. Let me just copy this endpoint. This is the endpoint URL. This is how it looks like. Now, can anybody tell me whether it is what kind of compute option they have used by just looking at the URL? Anil B got it correctly. By just looking at the URL, Mangesh got it correctly. Now you see what we learned has been used in our big data concepts already. So that was the reason why it took time for us to finish our fundamentals, basically. Anybody else? Anil P and Mangesh got it correctly. So this is how it looks like your endpoint. And you get some sample codes also. Basically, look at this one, folks. Appspot.com. Yes, Anil. So if it's an appspot.com, basically it's a app engine. It's an app engine, basically. And the word TP, indicates it's a tenant project, meaning this will not be in your project. This will not be in your project. It will be somewhere in a tenant project, which is going to be by Google, but you will not get access to it. What you get access is only to this endpoint. So hope, Anil Kumar, your question of how to use this. So they already have an endpoint. So you're going to use that and do it quickly. So, and if you want to get some sample codes, you get it in the Google's official GitHub page, how to create endpoints like this, basically. So that's your subscription, which is of type push. Now, what we'll do is, I'll go to my cloud functions. I will look into the log. I look into the logs. The way I trigger this is going to be by sending a topic, a message to this topic. It should going to trigger it. So if I see the logs, if I see the logs, it should show that these things have been deployed, blah, blah, blah. That's the stuff. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to continuously send around 20 messages in a loop, to my topic. So how I do it, I don't need to write a code. I don't need to write a code. If I click on my demo, pops up demo topic, publish message. This is a new feature which you can leverage. So minimum one message or maximum 100. So I'm going to send 10, 20 messages, and it's going to be a static content. It's going to be static. So hello, batch 6 learners. It's going to be a static content, but 10 times or 20 times it's going to be sent. If you want some dynamic content, definitely some programming is going to be required, which we'll see in tomorrow's class, where we are going to write a small Python code. The sample code is already available in the Google Drive. You can download it. We'll see how we can have some dynamic content sent. But for now, 20 messages, you send it, one message at one interval. Sorry, per second, one message. So let me just send it, publish. The messages are getting sent. It's going to be sent there. All sent successfully. Now, if I go to my cloud functions, I don't need to do anything, folks, because it's a push. Everything should have been captured. Let me just refresh my screen. All those 10 messages should have been pushed automatically, and it should have been shown in the logs because we were logging the message information. You see this, folks? Hello, batch 6. So all the 20 times the messages have been captured. Now, this is the textual data based on which you read it from your cloud functions. Based on this, you do any extra activity, maybe do some transformation, store it in a database, whatever you want to do it, you can do it, basically. And you did not do anything because it was a push. It was automatically the message when it was delivered, it was automatically delivered. So that's the beauty. That's the beauty of it. Now, if you were to read the message manually, what you can do now is because you have 2 subscriptions. So this subscription has used everything. It has also sent the acknowledgement. It has also sent the acknowledgement. So nothing is going to be there for it. But there is one more subscription which you had created. But that is pull, meaning you have to manually go and pull it. Unless you don't do it, you will not get those 20 messages. So now let me go and pull it one more time. Go to my topic, view the message. So now I have this topic, sorry, this subscription. Now if I go and pull, the 20 messages should be shown here. Should be shown here. You see that, folks? The 20 messages, because all the other messages we are already acknowledged. The manually which we send, we acknowledge it. This was using a script of that user interface where 10 message or 20 messages were sent, all are captured here. Now make sure you acknowledge it. If you don't acknowledge it, after 7 days, it's going to be expired. So hope the concept of PubSub is now clear, folks, how it works. But this was not in conjunction with any service. We used only PubSub as a standalone and tried it. Just using PubSub as a standalone will not serve the request. You have to use it with some systems like an ETL tool kind of a stuff or a lightweight ETL tool like Cloud Functions. Standalone PubSub will be of no use. You have to use in conjunction with some products. But we wanted to understand the concept, so that's the reason we did it. And you will see based on how much messages received, the stats, all those things. So hope the concept is clear. We will do one more demo tomorrow once we understand a concept called as data flow. Now, that's something on PubSub which I wanted to share. Let me know if there's any questions, folks. And because it is serverless, I can just leave it as is. I don't need to delete it. I can leave it as is. It's going to incur only the cost of the messages for 7 days. If you don't want to incur that, delete it also. But if you have acknowledged all the message, it's an empty queue, you can leave your PubSub as is. It's not going to incur any cost. It's not going to incur any cost. Now, this is another important slide. You would have seen something very similar in the past. Google Cloud Storage acts as a staging environment for your objects, any kind of data which you're going to put into it. Similarly, when it comes to messages, PubSub acts as a staging layer or a staging environment. So logs, any logs comes, you put it into PubSub. From PubSub, you send a notification. So you can use it as a staging environment for your messages. So this is an important one. So PubSub and Google Cloud Storage has a relationship. So any objects you want to stage it, use Google Cloud Storage. Any messages, real-time messages which you want to stage it, use PubSub. And because it's global, you can send millions of messages to it, and it's going to work in a very stable form. So no deterioration is going to happen. That's added advantage of PubSub because it's a global resource. So that's on your PubSub, folks. As I mentioned, we'll do one more comprehensive demo tomorrow. So to make that comprehensive demo, we should have a processing unit. The message which you get is a raw message. So you need to do some transformation on it, make the data talk, then persist that information into a warehouse, into a database, or into some kind of a file system, whatever you want. But definitely an ETL tool, extract, transform, load, is a important thing. So which is going to be addressed in GCP by various products. There are good amount of products which you can use for ETL purpose. The first product which we are going to see now is called as data flow. In 4 words, if I were to explain it, it's going to be called as batch data, batch and stream data processing system. So, which is really a cool product. As you go, you'll become really a fan of this product. Um, The equivalent of this in AWS is called as your Apache Kinesis. Now, if you quickly compare it with your PubSub stuffs, PubSub also was called as Kinesis. Dataflow is also called as Kinesis. So one product in AWS can do both the stuffs, which is really a good feature, at least in AWS. In GCP, they have it as two different product. In Azure also, they have it as a two different product. So Azure Analytics. Now, before we look into what is data flow, all those things, let's look into a standard architecture in enterprises, uh, which is called as Lambda architecture. Enterprise Lambda architecture. This is a standard architecture on-premise people use. What is this Lambda? It is a combination of stream processing and batch processing. So for people who don't understand what is stream, a data which continuously flows, a data which usually has a starting but does not have an end. It is like um, a river Ganga. So you can take it as, so it has a start, but we don't know where it ends. It ends in usually in the ocean is what they say, but a water stream never does not have a end. So it keeps on flowing. That's the reason we call it as a stream of water. So it is the same thing. So a data which comes from your sensor, unless you shut down the sensor, the data is going to be continuously sent. What is a batch data? A data which has a starting and an end. Number of rows in a table. So you know number of rows in a table is 10,000. So you know the first row, you know the last row. So there's going to be a fixed amount of data. So usually when it comes to business, they handle both this kind of data, streaming data, batch data. So to handle this both types of data, they have different architectures. An architecture dedicated for a component dedicated for batch processing, components dedicated for stream processing. So if they want both, they use an architecture called as enterprise Lambda architecture, which can handle both with various components, open source components. For example, if it's a batch processing, something like coming from a file system, you use Hadoop. It could be uploaded to your Hadoop distributed file system. You do some processing using open source products like Hive, which is a querying layer, a component on top of your Hadoop. So you can query your Hadoop using various tools, like you can write a pig statement, you can write, uh, you can use in a SQL format also using Hive. There are different options how you can query your Hadoop system. So you query it. Once you have done it, you want to store it in a database. It could be a NoSQL database. Push it to something like Apache Edge base, and which can be used by your end user products, like an application with some Apache web server with MySQL database. So basically, this is the bottom layer. This bottom layer is batch processing. Is batch processing. The top layer which you see is you have streaming data, maybe from sensors. So sensor is sending the data to Kafka, Apache Kafka. It comes to Spark. Apache Spark is a very good product for handling streaming data. So it comes to Apache Spark. Then they store it in Apache Cassandra, which is a NoSQL database again. Then it sends all the data to some MySQL database and you do a nice visualization. So this is how usually the enterprise Lambda architecture works. Now, why we are discussing this is basically we are going to resolve this. There are some issues with this. Anybody wants to find some issues in this architecture, folks, or the drawback
of this architecture? If you have used this in your previous projects or anything, what could be the drawback of this architecture? This is how people do it in on-prem usually. Any drawback if you are aware of? Okay, one of the drawback, too many layers to maintain. Yes, definitely that is one thing. So total cost of ownership. So one important thing is all the biggest advantage of this architecture. Let me say the advantage and the disadvantage. The advantage of this architecture is all are open source. So you have lots of open source products here. Kafka you get it in two flavors: Hadoop, Hive, Edgebase, Cassandra, Apache, Spark. Lots of open source products. Only if you can master it, then you have a real advantage. The second drawback is the code which you are going to write. We are not going to write it, but somebody needs to write the code. So at the end, you are doing some processing on batch data and on stream data. Now, there could be some common layers which you wanted to do. As an organization, you may have some policies where any kind of data which comes, you have to run some specific task on it, whether it is batch data or streaming data. Maybe, for example, look for sensitive information, PIA information, whether it is batch or streaming, it does not care. Look for any credit card information, emails, or anything. So, which means this has to be implemented in all the components. Now, that is going to be a difficult task. So, while Apache Hadoop, it may be written in, you would have written this in, say, for example, Hive, all those things. You are going to use Hive, which is going to be more like a SQL language. So, or if you use Apache Hadoop with pig statement, you have to write it in Java. Spark, maybe you have written it in Python, PySpark. So if you were to do this common policy changes like DL, some usually like doing accessing your publicly, sorry, what is it? Personally identifiable information, PI information, you have to make sure you write once the logic in Java, once the same logic in Python. So there's no common library which you can use. That's a big problem with this architecture. So the policies, common policies, applying it could become difficult. And you need to have two different peoples of two different skill set. One who can write something in Python, one who can write it in Java, one who is an expert in having the architecture of all these things. So it becomes little difficult when you are managing something like this. So what Google tried to address is have basically one layer, a box where you send batch data, streaming data, does not matter. It's going to handle both and do the processing and put it into a database or a data warehouse. So that is where a product, an open source product called as Apache Beam comes into picture. So Beam actually is an acronym. B stands for batch. EAM is your last three letters of your stream. So Apache Beam. Now it's an open source product. You may ask, what does this have to do with Google? Actually, this was a contribution by Google to the community. So they open source this Apache, the source code, and Apache Foundation created a product called as Apache Beam. But the first source code was came from actually Google. So what is this Apache Beam? It's a unified programming model, or it's an SDK or a framework written in Java, Python, and Go language. So which can handle both stream data and batch data. As I mentioned, this is the code written in Java, Python, or Go language. So if it's a code, where will you execute the code? You need to have an execution engine, right? Or your own laptop. So either it has to run on your, it's a piece of code in Java, Python, or Go language, means I have to have a specific runtime, Java runtime, Python runtime, some specific modules of Apache Beam. Then I can run it. So I can run it locally on my system using an option called as direct run. I can run it on basically other cloud platforms like Spark, Apache Spark, Apache Flex, Apache Flink, or data flow, cloud data flow. So basically, it's a compute option, it's an execution engine or a runtime which Google provides. Sorry. So basically, data flow execution engine to run your Apache Beam pipeline. Pipelines are nothing but your piece of code written in Java, Python, or Go language. So, and if you do, when we do the demo on data flow, you'll come to know this is nothing but virtual machine or groups of virtual machine. It's a managed instance at the end of the day. So data flow is nothing but your basically an execution engine. You can write your code in any of these popular 3 languages. Currently, it is only in 3 languages. You use that framework or SDK or library, whatever you want to call, and write your pipeline. Maybe tomorrow I can show a small piece of code, how this code looks like. And to run that code, you need an execution engine. Data flow is one of your execution engine. So is this part, this diagram clear, folks? Is this diagram clear? What it's going to do basically? What is Apache Beam? So we started with enterprise Lambda architecture. To resolve that, you can use Apache Beam, which can handle basically both batch and stream data. Now, one of the execution engine is going to be your data flow. What is your data flow? It's a fully managed service for transforming and enriching. Basically, you're doing ETL process on batch data and processing stream data, where you basically use your Apache Beam code, and execute it. So now Go language is also little coming up, so you can use it in Java, Python, Go. That's it, folks. Basically, a piece of code, you run it on the virtual machine. This virtual machine is going to have some built-in libraries, fancy Beam libraries, all those things which can scale up, scale down, all those things, which makes your ETL process very easy. But the key important thing to use data flow is one should be well versed with writing Python code or Java code. So, or Go language. Go is still coming up. So Python and Java is an important stuff. So you would have seen in GCP, there is a specific certification called as data engineer. A data engineer spends most of his time, his or her time, in writing Apache Beam pipeline. This is the place where they spend most of the time. In that certification, you're going to get n number of questions on data. N number of questions, mostly towards how you build those things on those things. So at a high level, if I want to show you how the pipeline looks like, it looks something like this. You need to read from a source. So any ETL process is going to have a source and a destination. From where you extract it, you transform it, and where you should load it. The source and destination is going to be there. So any ETL pipeline or Apache pipeline in this context will have an input output transformation. You read from that source. When you read from that source, the input to the following transformation layer is going to be called as P collections. P, the word P stands for parallelism or parallel, because everything is going to be in a distributed fashion here. So parallel collection is going to be transformed. What do you mean by transformation? Simple. So if you have, for example, the raw data which is coming is a JSON format, like called as website or URL. And the URL is www.google.com. So this is the raw data. Assume it is coming from a stream. Now you use a transformation. The transformation here is you want to only know what is the domain from which I'm getting a request. So you do some logic, write a logic in Java, Python, Go, and the data which you're going to get is google.com or just Google. Google.com would be better. This is your domain. This is what I want basically. So I just want to know what's the domain. Or maybe you have something like name, where it has something like this. Now, what is the transformation which you want to do is you want to make a split. First name, last name. Now, what you do in a logic, you split it by space. So after doing that, you will come to know the first name is going to be this, the second name is, the last name is going to be like this. So this is also transformation. So these are the kind of transformation, and it will be very much complex transformation. I'm just giving you a very simple one if you're totally from an infrastructure background. So you do this kind of a transformation. Once you do the transformation, you send that to the next transformation. Maybe this is my first transformation. So where I have got the names like this. The second transformation is I want to make it as all small letters. So transformation 2 is going to be something like this. Lower all your letters because I don't want any capital letters, maybe based on a business logic. So I wanted to do this. So this is my transformation 2. And lastly, what I'm going to do is I load it into a DB or a data warehouse. So extract, load, transform is going to be done, and all this transformation is going to be done by your Apache Beam pipeline, Java or Python code, which is going to run on a virtual machine, which is called as data flow. Data flow. So this is how it basically works. Now, as a cloud architect, you are never going to write a code. We are very clear of that. But as a cloud architect, what you should be looking more is the input, because the code is going to be written by a data engineer. That's his full-time job. But as a cloud architect, you should decide the input and the output, because that may decide the infrastructure. What is the infra which you need to have? So the input and output transformations are very important. And I have a small slide where it shows the various input output transforms available in Apache Beam. So file based. So it can be a normal file system. It could be any file system. Text IO is nothing but your Google Cloud Storage bucket. So it could be a Google Cloud Storage bucket as an input. Similarly, you can have something like Hadoop file systems, Google Cloud Storage file system. They have, so both are going to be same, slight difference are going to be there. Messaging services. So you have Kinesis. This is from your AWS. So you have Kafka, which can be used from your on-premise. You have PubSub IO, input output transforms. RabbitMQ, MQTT, this thing, simple message queuing service. This is from your AWS. So you have lots of messaging service support. So when you use messaging service, it's going to be a stream handler. It's going to be handling streaming data. And you have lots of database support, Cassandra, Solar, Spanner, MongoDB, Redis, DynamoDB from your AWS. So it has a good amount of support. It shows that open source capability there. And the things which are in bold are the one which is in support for GCP. So you can have your destination and source as BigQuery. You can have your source and destination as PubSub. You can have source as PubSub, destination as BigQuery. You can have source as Spanner and the destination as BigQuery. You can have source as a database using JDBC IO and have it into a BigQuery. So you should look basically for this input output transforms. What are the available sources? This is going to be important. So you cannot say I can write any Apache Beam pipeline from any source to any source. This has to be supported. If it's not supported, the data engineer have to build it from the scratch. So better to use a built-in IO transform. If it is not going to be existing, it has to be written from the scratch. So it's going to take some effort. So as an architect, you should have also added the timelines for building that. So interacting with the data engineer is going to be very important there. So I can share one of my real experience here. I had got a requirement in one of the consulting work where they told the data should be retrieved from ServiceNow. So I guess you would have heard of ServiceNow. Yes, Mangesh, data flow is more like your ETL tools like Informatica, all those things, Talent, all those things, which you would have used Informatica as a good example. So that's going to be the actual example. So here you write a code. There it may be a drag and drop. Here you write a code. So coming back to the example which I wanted to share. So the source was ServiceNow. The destination was BigQuery. So ServiceNow is usually used for raising all your IT tickets, all those things, right? They wanted to do some analysis, so they wanted to store everything in uh, BigQuery. So this was a consultation of task which I had got, and they told you'll not get directly access to ServiceNow. ServiceNow is running in a on-prem infrastructure. The backend database is Microsoft SQL Server, but we will not give you access to Microsoft SQL Server. We will expose it as a REST API. You access the REST API, then you do the transformation, then dump the data into BigQuery is what they had mentioned. So then I thought, okay, REST API, let me use data flow is what I thought. So first and the foremost task which I did was, I was aware that I have to look for this input output transform, whether REST API is supported or not. So for that, there's an official documentation where you can go and look into it. Sorry. So if I go into this documentation, which is in your one module one bookmark, it shows the various input output transforms. The same thing is what I have pasted in my table there. So you get various things. Now I just search for REST. I came to know there is REST IO, so which is going to be a support for REST APIs. But the problem was this one, folks. The problem was this one. So it is because it's open source. It's from open source, so there's going to be a contribution from lots of developers. So I realized that this part is still in progress, work in progress. So meaning I cannot use this. I cannot use this. So I had to use a different approach altogether. So I did not use even data flow in this context because for data flow to work, I have to use REST API. And REST API IO is still in work in progress. So what I did was basically from REST API, I created a cloud functions, called the REST API, got the data, then send that data to my BigQuery. So that's what I did it. So I did not use data flow itself. So knowing the input output transformation during your implementation or when you're creating a design document is going to be important. So this is going to keep on getting updated. Now, if you see PubSub Lite, because it was launched in last 2020 Google Next event, they are still developing the input output transform for it. So it's still not there. So, but you can use PubSub, the normal PubSub global one, that support is there. So this is an important one. As a cloud architect, you should clear role. So what is the input output transforms available? If you give a wrong, then definitely the data engineer is going to build. He's definitely going to curse you. This guy did not do the right job where he has put input output transform or an input source or an output source which does not even exist. Now I have to build it from the scratch. Either he's going to say not possible or he's going to put a blame on you. So don't get into that. So make sure your input output transform exists when you're doing something with your data flow. And everything here you're going to write as a code. So very important, and data engineers spend most of their time here only. So I'll stop it here. Tomorrow when we resume back, I'll show you how this code looks like at a very high level. So I don't want to show complex code and scare you, but I'll show you a very light slide, simple transformation. At a high level, I'll explain you. Then we will do a stream analytics. and a batch analytics if time permits, to see how the transformation can be done using the data flow, which is going to have Apache Beam code running, where the input is going to be PubSub, the output is going to be your BigQuery. Input is going to be a Google Cloud storage, the output is going to be your BigQuery. Something of that sort is what we are going to try tomorrow without writing a code, So we'll see those things in tomorrow's session. Let me stop it here. If there's any questions, happy to answer. But if you don't have any questions, have you can drop off now. I have 5 minutes. If you have any questions, happy to answer, folks. Any questions? Because stopping at 10 and then asking for a question does not make sense, is what I felt. So I thought, let me stop it here. If you have any questions.
So Mahesh, I
see
have
somebody.
yeah,
Yeah,
Mahesh, I have it's not related to the topic what you have delivered now, but it's
yeah,
related
go
to
ahead,
the
go ahead.
exam. It's related to the
Yeah.
exam because I missed to attend 4 of your session because of the COVID. But I was thinking of now studying for exam. So can you suggest how we study? Because we should be able to go through all your recordings. Apart from that, do we need to do something else? Because you are experienced people, right? You have seen so many folks like us who are aspiring for exams. So can you suggest some guidance
So
on that?
one suggestion. So one is uh, at least once, either if you have attended the class, the concept would have been registered, you would have made notes. We are also creating notes. Refer to that. That's one important thing. Uh, at least once the recording, if you have attended, for example, you told you did not attend 4 classes. So that recording, you look into it. That's the
Yeah.
first and the foremost
Yeah.
thing. Assuming you have spent that, then if there's any lab or demos which we have done, try to do it at your own style. Find you are able to do it successfully or not. You'll break the system. You'll find some solutions. You may not. You may totally do it in a different style, which I would not have done that style. Maybe your style is going to be more efficient. But for doing that, you would have explored more things. So maybe on BigQuery itself, you would explore something more. So that is something which I want you to do. Doing the lab, listening to the recording is once, or in the class, attend the class or listen to the recording once at least. Then doing the lab, that's the second activity. The third one is going to be basically there's going to be one playlist in the YouTube. So where I have put in very, very short tips and tricks. That referring is going to help you out. These 3 tasks is going to help you out to be prepared for the exam. So one listening, one practical doing, and last few cheats and our cheat sheet. We are creating a cheat sheet, right?
Yeah.
Towards the end, if you just refer it, it's going to be all good for you to prepare, be ready for the exam. Be ready for the exam.
Okay.
And if you have already attended the class, but you have lost because it's our 29th class. It's almost like 3 months, if I'm not wrong. So there's a chance that you would have forgotten the IAM concepts. So what I
Yeah.
would suggest is basically you can refresh the stuff. And I myself know I talk a lot. Stretch more like a elastic rubber band. So instead of playing the 4 hours video again, in YouTube, you have an option of running it in fast forward mode, something like 2x speed or 1.5x speed, so that you can
Okay.
see the audio may not be that clear, but you can run it at a faster pace. So a 3 hours video, you can finish it in something like 60 minutes. So quickly scan through it. That could be another trick. So
Okay.
towards the final stage, if you want to refresh it, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're clear, no need. If you're clear, no need. But at 2x or 1x, 1.5x speed is going to really help. And you get
Yeah.
that option in YouTube. You should be aware of that, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't explored, but I think there is option. I haven't used
But
that. But
it's a
thanks.
very simple one. I can just show you. Yeah,
Yeah, I
just show you. Yeah. Any other questions, folks? So if I take any other video, um, so so if I just do this, yeah, this one. Normal speed, so you can go up to 2x.
yeah.
So the video is going to finish in less than half of the rate. So what I heard from one of the previous learner was 1.5x speed was easy for him to get the stuff. he also had skipped few of the stuff. So he told using this 1.5, I was able to get most of the stuff fastly also.
Yeah.
Try that out.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's one more question. Thank you, Mangesh. Yeah. So I guess last Sunday, when I was showing you people the demo, I found that it was 100K. So later I realized that it was 100. That's 10K. 10K. Thank you. Any other questions, folks? Thank you. So, any other questions? And we may have few extra classes, folks, because from today onwards, 4 new case studies are going to be there. So you'll be the first batch where you will be seeing the demystification of those 4 case studies. So here are the stuffs at a high level. I will post it in the YouTube also, but deep dive, we will do it in the class. But you are prepared for the exam. Okay, so it's going to have some stretch. We may end by, I'm not sure, May end is what I feel, or mid of May is what I feel, with the pace which we are going. So slightly more than what was planned actually. Okay. So if there's no more questions, folks, we'll stop it. I'll share the recordings in next 4 hours or 5 hours. So we'll resume back tomorrow. Right. Thank you, folks. Thank you.